I've been a fan of the next guest of the pod for years, actually. He's written, I don't know how many books, 20 by now. He was a hedge fund manager, an entrepreneur, sold companies for tens of millions of dollars a few times, and has a list of 1 million accomplishments that goes on. A couple of them that are fun is like Grandmaster? Chessmaster? Chessmaster. This shows you how much I know about chess.
Not quite as strong as Grandmaster.
Chessmaster, comedian. But one of the main reasons I remember reading your stuff is all of that might seem not that relatable. But when I was in finance, you also were really honest about the highs and the lows of life, and you talked about your failures. And so I wanted to bring you on today, James Altucher, to talk about not just all the successes that you've had, but the world's getting a little hard. I think a lot of people are struggling, and they don't see that many people that have gone really high, gone low, and then been able to come out on the top again and are willing to talk about it. So I'd love to talk to you about that today. I'm stoked to have you here.
Yeah, all of my favorite topics. Thank you so much, Cody.
Oh, I was kind of, I was laughing as I was writing out questions because you've been so open with it. Do you ever wish that you hadn't been that open? Because then is it like PTSD? You keep going back to the same subjects again and again?
It's interesting because I'm glad that I've been so open. I feel like that's what writing is about, is to be vulnerable and to share a piece of yourself through words to other people. It's like it's like you put a part of your life on this boat that goes across this giant sea to other people on the other side. And that's the only way you really can really share a piece of yourself to other people and vulnerability is that boat.
It's true. You have a tweet that I've loved, which is that sooner or later, enough bad things happen to you that you can begin to enjoy the best written books, which I think is also the way you write.
Yeah. And like, I remember there's a lot of books, and you probably remember this too, like we had to read these books in high school. They were the worst books on the planet at the time. But then when really bad stuff happens to you and you reread these books later in life, you're like, oh, I didn't know that's what he was talking about or she was talking about. Really bad things happen to them too. And the language of our past fears and failures. That is the real way we all connect. Like if we all just had like $1 billion and we met at cocktail parties, we're going to connect in this real superficial way. But if we're saying, look, I had this hard time in a divorce, you had a hard time in a divorce, let's say, then that's an area where people connect at a very deep level. I'm not just talking about divorce. That's just an example, or go broke or whatever.
Yeah, it's a trust transfer that I think only happens when you open up a little bit, you show the cracks, then other people are willing to do the same.
Yeah. And in like finance, nobody was doing that. Like I realized like everybody was perfect in finance. They never were wrong. They were on CNBC like, oh, well, of course they're going to decrease interest rates and the market's going to go up or down. And everybody's like just talking their portfolio and arguing with each other. And no one's being honest. Like the first time I wrote something saying I had gone broke at one point, everybody was coming up to me saying, no one's going to invest with you ever again. Like you're admitting like these failures. And I'm like, well, the alternative is to lie. And that's what everyone else does. So do we prefer a world where everyone is lying, or do we prefer a world where just everyone's just open and honest with each other? Yeah,
it's so true. You talked about, I think the company's names were, you sold Reset for 15 mil-ish, Stock Picker for 10 mil-ish. And then 2 years after, you were like, the thing is, I'm broke.
In both cases.
That's so just curious. What does it feel like when you hit that zero? Like, what does that feel like, losing 15 mil for somebody that hasn't? By the way, I've lost a lot of money. So no pot kettle here. Yeah, so it's the worst feeling in the world. It really is horrible. Like this is going to sound horrible too, but if you lose a close family member, like for instance, around one of these times, I lost my father. And that was very painful to lose your father, no matter what age you are, to lose a parent. And very, very painful, very, very hard. But there's a process for that. There's a grieving process. And then I always remember my dad, but you move forward. Life goes on. That's the normal cycle of things. But going broke feels worse than that because there's no normal process of going broke and moving on from that. Like everybody hides the fact that they've
gone broke or had failures or so on. So people don't really discuss this that much. And also, you don't know the future. You don't know, am I ever going to come back from this? Am I ever going to be able to rent an apartment again, feed my kids again? Should I just kill myself now? Like, that's how bad I thought. I would Google how I could kill myself without hurting myself, because I didn't want to have pain in the process. By the way, there's no way to really do it, so I wouldn't encourage it. But there was a point where, because I wrote about this, there was a point where if you Googled, how do I kill myself, I was like the number one search result on Google. And then enough people complained that Google had to manually put in the National Suicide Hotline to replace me as the number one search result for that.
Which is probably not better, actually. I think, one of the interesting parts is the world's getting kind of hard. We were talking about how we think a lot of tough things are going to happen in commercial real estate. There's a small, real estate Twitter group of people where a guy that was well known in that group just killed himself, basically because he was going broke. And he had kind of issues with debt and how he had executed on it. And so I think one of the reasons it's really important to talk about this is because most people don't. And we all get kind of egoically wrapped up into how much cash we have in our bank account and what our title is without even realizing it. So one, I think it's really cool that you talk about it. It must be really, really hard, especially when you were one of the first ones. What actually happened? I've read lots of different accounts. I've heard about it. In your words, how did you get there?
Yeah, so it didn't happen because I was buying big, expensive things. So I remember at one point, look, there was the internet boom. I sold a company during that time, but then I cashed out. So I remember just hitting reload on my, account, and there was $15 million cash in there. And I was so happy because you do feel happy. Oh, now this whole thing I've had to worry about my whole life. I was born broke, lived broke, grew up broke, and suddenly I had this money, which meant my kids were going to be okay. They wouldn't have the worries that I grew up with or my parents grew up with. And I did it. But then suddenly I saw, all these other people are selling their companies in this internet boom. And I would look at my 15 million and it didn't feel like a lot anymore. This is going to sound crazy, but this is how I thought. I actually felt all of a sudden like I was broke, even though I had the 15 million. So I felt, you know what? I'm going to make 100 million because then I'll really have something to talk about. And so I started. So how do you go from 15 to 100 million? Well, I figured investing is the way to do it. And I knew nothing about investing, but the problem with making money is you think all of a sudden you're smart. I made money in this one area. You discount the fact that part of it is luck. There's always a luck factor. You discount the part that there's a lot of people involved in making any one person a success. And you discount the timing and so on. And so I figured, okay, well, I'm smart. I made all this money. I'm also a smart investor. For some reason, everyone was asking me for investing advice because I made money designing websites. And so I started investing, and I didn't know anything about investing. I would invest in the wrong things. I would not do any kind of risk management oh, sure, let's put 200% of my money in one stock or one deal and just wait and see what happens. And then, of course, the internet busted, and a lot of people went from paper rich to paper poor during that time. But I had cash money, and I just simply went broke. And I did buy a house, so bought an expensive house, which was more expensive than it should have been, than I should have paid. And I just kept pouring into the stock market and in private deals. Every single investment I made failed during this period, private or public. And I just had no sense of risk management at all. I put $2 million into an IPO, came out at 20, went down to 19 the first day. And I figured, this is a bargain. All IPOs are supposed to go up. This made a mistake. It went down. So I put more money into it. And of course it goes to $2. And it was like a wireless device for deaf people to communicate, as opposed to every single device now, which has texting and so on. So it was useless. And, but I did many deals like that, and some would work, some wouldn't, but over time, most didn't work. And, within about a year or so, I was dead broke. And I remember going to the ATM machine, looking at the same account that once had $15 million in it and it had $193 left. And my mortgage at that time, because I bought this big place, was like $18,000 a month. And it was just really insane. Like, and I was really scared. I had these 2 babies and I was super scared. And then it's just awful.
So how did you get out of that?
I would say there's no one way, but basically you have to realize that it's not just, no one's going to just drop money and opportunity in your lap, particularly when you're on the downward trend, like when you're going broke. All the people who were friends with you going up, none of them are friends when you're going down.
0, like no friends were the same? Did any of them stick with you through it?
One, who by the way, I still work with and talk to every day. Like he's basically my main business partner. And this is like over 20 years later. So one person out of maybe hundreds. And so you have to become, and if you let your brain just go to its own devices, you're going to be depressed every day. You're not going to move. You're not going to want to wake up. You're not going to want to do anything. So you can't really function even. You have to sort of overcome this depression that whether it's clinical or situational or whatever, you're going to be depressed and scared. So you have to put all that aside. And I really became, because if I didn't have kids, I don't know what would have happened. I would have, who knows? But I was really determined to every day, at the end of the day, make sure I was attempting to be physically healthier, emotionally healthier, creatively healthier, and for lack of a better word, spiritually healthier, which really just means if I can't control it, I can't worry about it. And so, this is during this period where how do I be creatively healthier? So I started just randomly writing down 10 ideas a day. And it could be 10 bad ideas a day. Like it could be a list of businesses I would start. It could be a list of books I want to write. It could be a list of chapters of a book that I want to write. It could be, here's 10 ideas for Codie Sanchez, and I'm going to send them to her. All of the above, and many other things. And so many things happened just from that one practice. Like I became more confident because, I could suddenly have ideas that I'm excited about. Like, even if they were like stupid ideas, I would get excited about some of them, and that would give me enough dopamine boost to survive the day. Whereas before I didn't have the dopamine boost. And then if I sent somebody 10 ideas, most of the time they wouldn't respond to me, but sometimes they would say, hey, could we meet? I love these ideas. Maybe you could do these ideas for me and I'll pay you. And suddenly I started, for the first time in years, like this going broke process was like a 2-3 year process. And suddenly for the first time in those years, people were reaching out to me. Can you help me do something and I'll pay you? And it was just based off of ideas I've given them. And I've been doing this now, writing 10 ideas a day for over 20 years. Because I send many of them out, I've been invited to speak at Google, Facebook, LinkedIn. I spoke at Airbnb's main conference. I've been out to Quora and met all of them. And just so many different opportunities were created for me by coming up with 10 ideas a day. I've been able to sell businesses because here's the ideas, the synergies between your business and mine, so you should buy my company, and on and on. Like, it's really, even though most ideas are bad, I'll throw out most idea lists and never use them or look at them. But that process probably lifted me out. It didn't make me a millionaire, but it got me a writing gig, for instance. Oh, we'll pay you $200 an article, which I was desperate for after having 15 million. Or, I'll give you $5 million to manage, because I became obsessed with learning with what I went wrong with investing. So I was reading hundreds of books about investing and starting to successfully day trade. So I gave somebody, a big hedge fund manager, I sent them my software for how I do my investing. And he said, well, I don't get your software, but I'll give you $5 million to manage. And then I started a hedge fund out of that. So on and on, things happened. Yeah,
it's funny because when I first heard you say this, I thought, well, ideas are kind of worthless because it's execution that matters. Why would ideas matter? That was maybe the finance side of me. And then
but you're right. But I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I?
Yeah, get in there.
So execution ideas are a subset of ideas. Like let's say I'm going to start a business. All right. I could say, well, I'm going to need to hire someone to make a lot of software, and then I'm going to need a lot of money for marketing, and then I'll know if my business is good. So I need to raise $2 million. So that's one way to execute on an idea. Another way to execute an idea is, what's a manual way I can do this service that I'm proposing to do through software? And can I contact any of my friends and do this service manually and see if it's something they'd be willing to pay for? And then I can test for no money, and no, I don't have to raise any money to validate an idea. So that's two ways to execute something. One required $2 million. The other required zero. And the one that requires zero is faster and, obviously saves more money and comes up with a better result. So execution ideas are a subset of ideas.
I think it's actually brilliant. I sent this to a couple people that I know that went bankrupt back in the day. And because what I realized is, ideas basically are just sales pitches. They're like sales pitches to you. They're sales pitches to somebody else.
That's
There's
a great
also
way to think about them.
Yeah, they're like sales pitches to the universe that you still have this ability to cognitively get yourself out of whatever situation you're in. And I use them now, which people think is weird. But like, for instance, I met Vivek Ramaswamy at an event we were both speaking at. And it was like right before he was getting kind of pretty famous for, being a serious presidential contender. And I remember, because I now do this idea practice in a different way than you, but inspired by you, that I was like, I want to be of service to this guy. I kind of want to get to know him. I like knowing different presidential candidates that I've gotten to know over the year. I think it's like an interesting type of human.
By the way, now you know me. I'm running for president. So
there we go.
Sorry again to interrupt, but if you just go to fec.gov and fill out 10 minutes worth of paperwork, you too could be an official candidate for president.
I didn't even look at this. This is an idea right now. Didn't you also try to buy Greenland at some point and get shut down?
Yeah. So I was doing a couple of different experiments there, but I saw how Trump had tweeted he wants to buy Greenland.
That's what it
and
was.
The Prime Minister of Denmark, for some reason, tweeted back, "It's not for sale." And I'm like, what the hell just happened here? Did a president of the United States just offer to buy a country on Twitter? And then Denmark, which is this tiny little country, they said no. What do they have to do with Greenland? So it kind of forced me to research why anybody would want Greenland. It turns out Greenland and China are the only places you could find all these rare earth minerals. And so I figured, and I wanted to experiment with my writing a little bit. So I did an article in the form of a Kickstarter. I made a Kickstarter to buy Greenland, and they kicked me off. But then Indiegogo, I think, let me do it. And I started raising like thousands of dollars. It was an interesting way to write about why I would want to do it. And you could become a duke if you can give me $100, and we'll get a holiday after you if you give $1,000, and you get an acre if you give more, and so on. And so they started raising thousands of dollars, but then Indiegogo shut it down because they said, look, we know you're just joking around. We don't want to pay back the, we're eating the American Express card fees. So we don't want to do that.
I remember that. I actually thought that was brilliant. Yeah. One of my friends worked in the energy department for Donald Trump, actually. And he left after they didn't get reelected and started a rare earth minerals fund, actually.
Oh, wow.
With this exact reason that, we really don't own these in any way that makes sense, and we're not allowed to mine them here because of all these environmental reasons, et cetera. And so, it's a small world.
And by the way, there's a company, I think it's called Greenland Mineral Resources. And so you think, Greenland's trying to monetize their rare earth minerals. No, they sold all the rights to their mining to China. And so people don't realize that this is like a big geopolitical issue, because we need rare earth minerals to power the electric grid, among many other things. And so what happens when you do these experiments and have these ideas is you go on these little mini adventures that even years later are still stories, and you learn valuable information. Yeah,
well, that's the exact thing. I ended up, when I met Vivek, I was like, the thing is, you seem really smart. I like you better than many of the other candidates that are out there. But your social media is awful. And so I just started writing down all these ideas for how he could change his social media. And I gave it to him by the end of the thing. And he was like, can you fly out and like talk to my team about how to do this? I was like, I guess so. I was like, he's like, do we pay you for this? I'm like, no, I definitely don't do this for a living. But yeah, sure, I'll fly out and come meet your team. And now we've gotten to know their team because of it. But it was all because of your idea of, what if I just give ideas to other people that I think are interesting and I see if magic happens? And I think that is a beautiful way to go from broke to really abundant.
And by the way, you did two key things there. First off, you didn't charge. Like you should absolutely not charge for, if someone just wants to meet or if someone wants you to share your ideas with their team, just go out and you build up so much goodwill. There's zero goodwill if they just pay you, because then it's a transaction. Then they think, oh, I paid $500 or $5,000 or even $50,000. No sweat. I don't even have to think about this again. But if you're giving for free, you're still on there. You're equal. You're still having a communication with them that's non-transactional. Second, a lot of people think, oh, they're going to steal my ideas. I better get it, get this trademarked or whatever, or a patent on my ideas. And that's so stupid because, first off, no one really wants to steal your ideas. In 99.999% of the cases, no one could give a shit about your ideas. The other thing is that, even if they do steal your ideas, you're the idea person. You're abundant in ideas. You're going to come up with more ideas. Them stealing ideas is just validates your. In all this time, I've only had one person steal any idea I had that was worth any money, and no big deal. And it's just I'll give an example. Google gives idea. That's their business. Is they give ideas away for free all day long, billions of times a day. You go to Google and say, "Tell me something about motorcycles." Google literally replies, "Look, we don't know anything about motorcycles, but here are 10 other places that we think are the best places where you can learn about motorcycles. Get out of here, knock yourself out, read about motorcycles." And Google measures its success, how fast you leave to go to one of the recommendations. But then where do you go back the next time you need help? Google. That's how they built a $1 trillion business.
It's such a good point. The other thing that I think you've been masterful at is, you go through these periods of hardships, but then you seemingly totally reinvent yourself. Like, I recall that you lived in a hotel for a couple of years, very like Jack Kerouac of you. But it wasn't the Chelsea Hotel, was it? Did you?
Yeah, the Chelsea Hotel.
Get out. Isn't that where Arthur Miller, after he broke up with Marilyn Monroe?
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe. Yeah. Yeah. When I left graduate school and moved to New York City, I loved the building. It was the oldest hotel in New York. It's built in 1884, and it's just a beautiful architecture. And you go inside, and there's artwork everywhere. But it was really a gross hotel. It was disgusting. You go
on the inside.
On the inside, yeah. One time I was walking down the stairs with my then 5-year-old daughter, and she actually slipped on the stairs on a condom. On a used condom.
Oh, that's so New York in the 70s.
Yeah, and this was just a few years ago, really. But then there was a period where I didn't want to deal with rent, and I didn't want to own a house. I didn't want to deal with rent, and I didn't even want to deal with hotels. So I just lived from Airbnb to Airbnb for a couple of years. So again, I think doing experiments when you can is a fun way to live, where you learn about yourself and you come up with different types of ideas, and you have something to write about, and it's just interesting. It's a fun way to live. You can't always live from Airbnb to Airbnb, but there's always experiments you can do.
Well, I mean, theoretically, you could if you go to really cheap ones too, because that might be cheaper than a lot of the ways people live. We did this interesting little tweet the other day that I think you're exactly right. There's seems to be this idea of, well, if you can become an idea machine, and then there's also some power of experimentation. So just what can you try to do from an action perspective? But then there's also this power of place and can you move your physical body, which you've done a ton of times. And we tweeted out the other day, so I couldn't think of somebody who had never once left their hometown for an extended period of time, meaning even college, and become what would be determined as monetarily career focused successful, quite successful. And we had thousands of replies. You know what Twitter is? It's you elitist, blah, blah, blah. But all these people, I'm show me who. They're Warren Buffett. I'm wrong. New York, and went to school outside of Omaha. Again and again, couldn't find anybody. And then I found one guy, Nathan Barry, who I'm friends with, who runs ConvertKit, that's I went to school locally for college. I've never left. The longest I've ever been away from my home is 4 weeks. But besides that, I couldn't find somebody. So do you also think there's something to the fact of when you're struggling, move physically during the day, but also maybe move place?
Yeah, I think that's true. I never thought of it that way, but you do have to, let's say we don't really, self-awareness is something that's very low for most people. for good reason. Like there's no reason for us to really know who we are. We usually see ourselves through how other people see us. So maybe there's something to the point where if you go to other locations, now you have much more variety of how people see you. And plus you learn as well by seeing how the rest of the world is. Plus it's just fun. It's like every time you go someplace, it's an adventure. You can make an adventure out of it. And I always like to think of myself as trying to find mini quests to pursue. So a quest is different than a goal and it's different than a journey. A quest might be like something that's impossible, like me buying Greenland. But okay, I'm going to figure out a way to begin this quest. And along the way, I'm going to have adventures. Now that one was a very quick quest that failed that I had a mini adventure with. But let's say for about 6 years, I tried to be a real serious stand-up comedian. Like I was performing 6 nights a week, twice a night. And I even owned part of a comedy club during this time. And then I ended up traveling all over the country, all over the world. Like I toured around the Netherlands, for instance. And what an adventure. And then I stopped. Like that was it. I got to where I wanted to and it wasn't fun for me anymore. But having those kind of quests always shows you who you are a little bit.
I really like that. I haven't thought about that way. So it's almost like an experiment, an adventure, a quest. There's sort of levels to the game. But I actually think you had the best thing ever happen with Greenland. It's like best case scenario, you show yourself to be an asymmetric thinker. You get a ton of attention and press. You raise awareness to this issue. You probably get a bunch of connections that you never thought of. I bet you got a bunch of emails and social media subscribers, and then you didn't have to deal with actually running Greenland. And so
exactly.
That might have been a win, you know?
Yeah, and the worst case is, right, like, so all those things you mentioned were like worst case, plus I get a story to tell. Plus, for me, it started off as I wanted to experiment with writing. Like you write your newsletter once a week. It's not always easy to write and to build style. And it's writing because everybody could write. They just open up, their LinkedIn account and they write a story. Everybody thinks they're a writer, but it's a hard skill. And so one way to experiment is you write an article in the second person, like you use the word you, instead of I. Or another way is to write in the form of letters, like, I'm going to write an article that's me and Codie Sanchez writing letters back and forth to each other. But here now I wrote an article essentially that was in the form of a Kickstarter campaign. So it's like you get to play and improve as a writer and an artist as well.
It's so true. When we do videos now, because we do a lot of YouTubes, we think about idea and format, which is basically what you're talking about. So you can have ideas on like, okay, the topic is Greenland. The format is Kickstarter story about it, or the format is we're going to travel there and we're going to do a Discovery Channel version. And so it's fascinating how there's so many versions of ideas. I really like that. Speaking of that, you have you basically turned this movement of ideation into an app, right? Note PD.
Yeah, notepd.com, notepad.com. But I have to say, despite the fact that over the years so many people have said, "Oh, you should build this as an app. I would use it." You could never believe what people tell you they would use. So but somebody contacted me and offered to build this. So I said yes. And I'm proud of it. It's got like a couple thousand users, but it doesn't really grow. And I think an important lesson there really is that when someone says something positive, it actually has no informational value. Like there could be a lot of reasons why someone says, sure, I would buy your product, or I would use this concept, or, build it and then, I'll pay for it. But they could be saying that for a lot of reasons. One is they could like the idea, but they don't really know themselves and they're not really going to use it. The other thing is they could be like, I just want to say yes to this guy's idea so he goes away and so on. But if you're building a business, no has real informational value. Like if you buy a laundromat and someone across the street says, nah, I'm not going to use that laundromat, that person has some valuable information for you. As opposed to, sure, I'll use that laundromat. I've never used it before, but I'll use it. That has zero informational content. But no has a lot of information in it.
Yeah, I always say no and dough. Those are the only two things I listen to. Opinions really have no value. You're exactly right. I always giggle. I went and talked the other day to this University of Texas little tiny class here. And they were talking about validation of ideas. And they're like, well, we went out, we asked other people what we thought. And so then we determined if we should do X, Y, or Z. I'm like, but did you get the cash? It They told you they were going to do it? That doesn't mean anything. How often do you lie? 400 times a day to yourself. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm not going to eat that donut. I am going to make $1 million a year, but you don't. I mean, we're kind of like self-rationalizing machines. And it turns out we don't actually in-person, face-to-face, maybe on Twitter, but in-person, face-to-face, we don't really want to tell somebody else their baby's ugly. It's not that fun.
No, it's true. And that's why, like, when you have a business idea, I call it smoking crack bias. Like, you always have to ask yourself every day, am I smoking crack? Like, is this really a good idea, or am I just completely insane right now? Because I've seen so many friends who I haven't been able to tell them that their idea is bad because I don't want to hurt their feelings, even though that is the proper thing to do, is to be as honest as possible. But I would say to myself, I can't believe this guy thinks this is a good idea. Like, this is the worst idea I've ever seen. And, it's very hard to avoid that bias.
Yeah. Hysterical. Smoking crack bias. I'm going to use that and ask the team. I'm going to ask both the team if they're smoking crack frequently and myself. Equal opportunity.
Yeah. And find out, like, when's there a time when you've been smoking crack, so you start to learn to recognize when you might be. Because it's hard to know.
Yeah, this one I haven't wordsmithed enough to do it on Twitter, but I always giggle when people talk about, I get in front of the mirror and I say positive affirmations to myself, like, you're good looking, you're strong, people like you. I'm like, I actually think what would be better is you get in front of the mirror and you go, you're super mid, you're kind of average like everybody else, and so you're gonna have to work pretty hard. And then it like keeps motivating you. Every time I see people shout positive affirmations, I'm like, I'm not sure. You're just kind of misleading yourself to think you don't have to work as hard as you probably do.
Right. Like, I think it's really important to embrace mediocrity, like embrace where you're mediocre, and then work on it, all the areas where you're mediocre, to at least improve a little bit. But it's really hard, because if you are in a pattern of mediocrity, which everybody is basically, it's really hard to improve. So it's a challenge. But if you think you're great, how many people in the world have been great? We always say, oh, Winston Churchill was great. Was he? Like, I don't know. This guy had a lot of problems too. And Abraham Lincoln, had a lot of problems. And George Washington had slaves. So everybody is either bad or mediocre at best.
And varies by the day, Yeah. I think one of the best ways to not have trolls, which is kind of what I want to roll out, or to not care as much about the trolls, is like to beat them to the punch. They're like, you're dumb. You're like, yep. Yeah, sure, I'm wrong all the time. But you have this quote that I love that's like, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter who your audience is, 30% will love it, 30% will hate it, 30% won't care. Stick with the people who love you and don't spend a single second on the rest. Life will be better that way. Are you actually able to do that now?
No. I think when I wrote that, I really wanted to believe that about myself, that I would not care, but I do care. And I've written, so I've been writing almost daily for like over 20 years. At first, mostly financial stuff, but then much more personal stuff and more opinions and so on. And sometimes I've had really, like, for whatever reason, people will get upset at me, and I would have severe backlashes. And then the last one happened in August 2020, where the backlash lasted for months, and it was, I'm not exaggerating, like over 1 million people like lashed out at me. And many more people liked what I was saying, but 1 million people, including people I cared about, were like saying really bad things about me. And it really, even Jerry Seinfeld wrote an op-ed in the New York Times just trashing me, which then Andrew Cuomo emailed to like everybody in New York State. And it really hurt my feelings, and I got a little depressed over it. And because I had friends who I could see were liking his article and quotes about his article, and it just really upset me for a while. Yeah, and that kind of slowed down my writing. It was the first thing which in 20 years slowed down my writing, and I kind of switched quests for a while. And it was painful to I'm still, I think, recovering from that.
I remember when that happened. I think you've been vindicated. A lot of your statements in 2020. The problem is, you actually said this too, I think. The problem is, when you were right, nobody will ever tell you. But when you were wrong, they'll remind you a lot. And I think that is true. You have had a lot of takes that were unpopular then that you're now like, how's the math? It aged well. You had this one tweet. We can cut this out if you don't want this in here later. But I was giggling my little titties off as I was reading it this morning, which was, I still think it's funny, Alyssa Milano writing, do you know that Joe Rogan has double the viewers that I do on his podcast? And you just wrote, can you believe you have a podcast? And I just, because the hubris from some of these people, like, yeah, Joe Rogan's that aged well. Like, that was a tweet that aged well, but I bet you got a bunch of hate from it. And somehow the hate is so much louder than all the love.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's just like, in marriage, like one negative interaction with your spouse, you have to have like 6 positive interactions. I forget what research says this, but you have to have 6 positive interactions to make up for it. And it's the same thing with, if like the mistake you can make is thinking that Twitter is important and that people's reactions on Twitter is important, and that it's nothing more than just a place to like make some fun tweets and laugh about it. And also it's a vehicle for building a platform, like to drive people towards a newsletter and so on. But like when you start like there was this period in 2020 when I had written this article about New York City where I was trying to argue with all the million people who were arguing with me on Twitter. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's not what I said. And why was I doing that to people with anonymous names who were just like, well, you're from Iowa. Why should we listen to you? And I'm like, no, I'm not from Iowa. I was born and raised in New York City. So like, why would I be even responding to them? But I was.
Yeah. No, it's always better to not, but it's really hard too, because your trolls are also your biggest fans. Like, I have one guy that I think like 1 out of every 5 of his tweets is like something negative about me. And it's actually a little funny because I have a rule now. I don't feed the trolls. I like don't comment on their stuff. I just
that's key.
Let people doing shit, don't have time for people talking shit. And we're 2 different groups of people, and never the 2 shall collide. And but I have this one guy, I thought it was a great response. He basically was saying something like, Codie Sanchez is not the real deal. She doesn't know anything about buying businesses. She sucks. And so I see that and I go click, and this was early. I didn't have that many followers. I go click on his profile and I see that he's like a house flipper or something. And I'm like, first of all, what the fuck does this guy know about buying businesses? I've been doing this for, 10 years. So I get all of my ego, and then I go and I respond. And I thought it was funny at the time, but my response was, I hope you own more real estate in real life than I own rent-free in your head. Otherwise, boy, do I have a course to sell you. And so I thought I was funny. Now, when I look back on it, I'm like, that guy's he's probably gone through a tough time. One of his business was probably struggling. He lashed out at me because something that I said that triggered him in some way. And like, the truth of the matter is, why do I have to be rude back to this person? I'm just going to like wish you well. I hope life's good. And, and then save myself from like all the crazy stuff this guy DMs me and like a potential stalker who's going to try to murder me,
Yeah. And not only that, you lend your completely legitimate, valid audience to him for that tweet.
Exactly.
And so he can now use that audience for his purpose. That certainly wasn't your intent. So that's why now I'm very careful about, like, every time I click reply and I even like type something out, and then I realize, you know what? Do I really want to lend my audience to this person? And I always then get rid of the tweet. But now but at that point though, I was responding to everyone because I thought like everybody I knew was also like trolling me. And it was like a sensitive topic that most people agreed. But the other thing about trolls is that for every 1 troll you have, it means you have 100 people who love what you're doing. But the trolls have to express themselves for some reason. The people who love what you're doing are like normal, sane people who just go on with their lives. But the trolls stop everything they're doing, and they're like, I have to say something rude and hateful to Cody in order to move on with my life. And those are trolls. So
yeah. And they live under bridges for a reason. But and I think Twitter just brings out that in humans, and obviously brought it out in me too. So that's my karma. That's when I realized that I'm not going to do that anymore because, I don't need crazies in my life. But I think it's really, first of all, I didn't know that's one of the reasons why you slowed down writing, because I think your writing is really prolific. And what does my opinion matter? But, especially somebody from Hollywood, man, like, I don't know, Jerry Seinfeld, I'm sure he's great, but those fucking people telling any of us what to do is hysterical to me. I'm like, the thing is, you get paid to lie and pretend you're a character for a living. So no bias at all, and no basis for you to chat. But I hope you keep writing again, because people actually will learn Like, here's the other thing, James, that I giggle about. Dude, that guy, so we're humans are weird. So if somebody reads your stuff and they read James Altucher like I did, and then they go take action on what you do, you can change somebody's life, right? You can literally make them tons of money. The upside's actually completely limitless. And you can give them habits and tools that will make their life better that day. But if instead you teach them to laugh and give them a hangover, you're applauded continuously. And so it's we humans are hysterical in that way.
Yeah, it's like, particularly like all these actors who are commenting on like geopolitical events, like what made them first of all, what makes anyone qualified to comment on geopolitical events? But probably the least thing is an ability to pretend to be someone else. So it doesn't make any sense. But they do influence people. And then suddenly you see like this like, onslaught of people if this person said it, then it's okay to say it out loud publicly. And then suddenly it unleashes like a whole new violent attack against you if they said something against you. But yeah, I hope I write again as well. Like what happened is I said, you know what, I'm going to take, I didn't make a conscious decision, but I decided, when I was younger, like 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I was a tournament playing ranked chess master. And I think after a 25-year break, I'm going to go on a quest and I'm going to be as good 25 years later as I was then. And this will be a quick and easy quest. It'll be fun. And it's been actually really hard. Like aging actually does affect you. And we do actually get old. I didn't realize it actually is true that we get older as time goes on. And this has been an ongoing quest, and it has slowed down my writing. Yeah. But it's improved me in other ways. Like I've been all over the world now playing chess. I've had dinner with the world chess champion. I've been writing for the premier chess magazine in the world because they heard I was doing this. I've had lessons from the world memory champion. I've talked to nutritionists, brain psychologists, chess coaches, and everything. It's been an amazing a bunch of adventures.
Yeah, you have an ability to turn difficulties into upsides that I think is really cool for you to share. If you haven't listened to the Theo Von, Dana White podcast, it's great.
Oh, no, I haven't. I've listened to Theo Von's podcast. I haven't listened to this specific one.
Yeah, it's a new one. But Dana White has like the ultimate I give zero fuck energy, I think. But he went through all of it during COVID too. Obviously, people hated a lot of stuff that he did. So, James, you're the man. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Thanks for having me on.
Fun.
I'm glad we were able to work this out.
Same, 7 years later. Also, where do you like people to go these days?
I like people to listen to the podcast interview I did with Codie Sanchez. So this is perfect right here.
Okay, the James Altucher
They should just listen to this over and over again, is listen to your podcast interview of me.
Perfect. We'll just loop it back and forth. Thanks, James. Welcome back to the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is for those of us who want to be not just rich, but free and do what it takes to get there. This week, we are talking about how to not be fucking broke if you are, and how to break a cycle of poverty for yourself and maybe for the country overall. But we'll start with just you. So do me a huge solid. And if we taught you something, give us a little love. That's how we spread this message. All right. Appreciate you. We thought long and hard about this. I got a ton of questions. And Michaela, I want to answer your question about how to not be broke because this one touched me. So she said, I made some bad decisions when younger, and now my debt repayments each month crush me. No space for savings or investment. Forget any fun spending. Just being able to buy family birthday gifts is a stretch. My partner and I already launched a business we believe in and we're working really hard, but I see no future and everything creates constant tension for me. How do I get out of this? We're going to break this down in 3 ways. We first thought, okay, in order to change something, you 1, have to acknowledge that a problem exists. Then you 2, have to define what the problem is. Then you 3, have to set the landscape of what the situation you are surrounded with is. And as soon as you do those 3 things, then you can start getting into tactics on how to change. But without hitting those 3 aspects, you can't. And so that's what we're going to go into this week. I think we should define broke, right? Because Tanner basically, who's sitting over here, you can't see him. Tanner said, wouldn't it be helpful to define broke? Because a lot of people feel broke,
but they aren't broke. A lot of people are broke, but they don't feel broke. And so I started thinking about, okay, what is the definition of broke? How would I define that? And I don't think it's exactly monetary. How I define broke is this: being one negative event away from running out of money to live, eat, and survive. Being one negative event away from running out of money. And if we think about being broke that way, a lot of people are broke in this country and around the world. I think you should kind of lay the landscape for them really quick on other humans in America who are also broke. So you know you're not alone. It's actually relatively normal. And I think there are ways that we can help you get out of it.
First, Tanner had a great step before I even jump into that, talking about median savings balance. And this does not include retirement funds of Americans under 35. That number is 3,240. So that is something to just keep in mind.
So the average American has like $3K in the bank. That's it.
Under 35, $3K, not including their retirement, correct?
Wild.
And to understand that, the median American worker earns an estimated $54,000 a year, and that's according to the Census Bureau in 2022.
So we now know the normal American, and really important that we use median, not average, because average you can skew really easily with really, really rich people. So the average American makes about $50K a year and has about $3K in savings if they're 35. Then we started to think, okay, there's 3 tiers to poverty, right? There's 1, where do we start? What's like the kid level of poverty? Then there's 2, current state, like me and you, where are we at? And then there's 3, elderly, like where are we going? And so we've broken down current state, right? So where we are at today, you're going to go to kids, and then we're going to go to elderly. And then after we hit that, we're going to go to what's the solution? How the do we get out of poverty?
Let's talk about adults that are poor. So in 2015, 18.2% of the US adult population, which comes to a little bit over 43 million Americans, provided unpaid care to an adult relative. So why are people becoming broke? Not only is it really expensive to have a kid, but adults are now taking care of their parents. This is an extreme issue. Like, poverty is really killing adults. So for people over the age of 15 in America, in the year 2019, there were around 200,000 deaths that were attributed to poverty. Backing up, talking about parents again. So unless your parents are rich, the elderly really aren't here to save you. Baby boomers are going to be leaving behind trillions of dollars in assets to heirs. And total family wealth in the US has tripled from $38 trillion in 1989 to $140 trillion in 2022. Sorry, that even took me a second to even say, because I was like, wait, is that wrong?
That's a lot of pennies.
Like, that is insane.
Yep.
So we're seeing all that money getting moved to American adults. Only the 1% will really be seeing like a majority of this money. And the bottom 50% of Americans are only going to see 8% of those transfers.
You hear the term generational wealth transfer. We're amongst one of the largest generational wealth transfers in history, we think. Small issue. Most of that wealth is going to get transferred to the top 1%. And if you're in the bottom 50%, you're going to get about 8% of that. If you're expecting that because a bunch of baby boomers are going to retire, you're going to win, looks like that's often not the case. And again, this isn't making you out to be a victim. I wouldn't take these stats and think, woe is me, now I'm going to go complain about it and I'm going to do sad TikToks. That's not the point. It's that we understand the landscape so that we can change it for ourselves. So now let's talk about kids real quick.
So a kindergartner from the bottom 25% of socioeconomic status with the top test scores of the 25% range has a 31% chance of earning a college degree and a job that makes more than $35,000 by the age of 25 and $45,000 by the age of 35. In the same vein, a kindergartner from the top 25% of socioeconomic status with the bottom 25% test scores has a 71% chance of achieving that same milestone. So that basically means that if you were born into a poor family, you have way less of a chance of getting a college degree and making more money, even if you're smarter than your peers that were maybe born into a higher socioeconomic status. And by the way, this data is coming from NCES, and it analyzed standardized math tests and different socioeconomic statuses.
Okay, so basically the thing we already knew, the thing you knew in your gut, which is that if you look around and you don't have much money, and other people that you know don't have much money, your future likely looks the same. It's harder than we thought, perhaps, to break out, according to the data. So now if we know that, we know if we want to be better than what the average person is, we have to do something that is different than what the average person will do. And, I want you guys to kind of think about this for a moment, let it sink in, understand the difficulty, and then realize that we are going to have tools to change a bunch of this. So this isn't like, slit your wrist time. It's going to get a little bit better. All right, let's hit them with the last one, which is like the ones that horrified me the most, the stats on the elderly.
So 73% of consumers die in debt.
Think about that for a second. That's 7 out of 10 Americans die not with zero, but with less than zero, like $61,000 in debt on average, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
not
then
good.
46% of Americans die without $10,000 in savings.
Yeah. So on average, we're dying without a lot of cash to leave behind, which is okay. Hey, you spend it all, you max it all out. But perhaps if we want to leave a legacy, we need to do something different. Some of the stats that I thought were helpful as I went to reframe this is to realize that most people who become millionaires, more than 76% of them, actually inherited nothing, $0. And so if we can reverse engineer what these people did, then we can be the, 30% that aren't those that die without a lot of cash. And so I think we should go now into how do you break out of a cycle of being broke or poor? And there was like one quote I thought we'd start with Dave Ramsey, which is, don't take money advice from broke people. And I love this quote. And I think you should question everything you get asked on the internet or you get told on the internet, even me. And so a lot of times, if we're hanging out with certain people and those certain people don't have the things that we want, we get their advice by default, right? You're hanging out with a group of friends and they might say things to you like, yeah, well, why don't you take that job right now? I don't know if you can get any better. Well, why don't you come hang out with us on the weekend? You're no fun anymore. Well, I have plenty of time for my friends and you don't have any time for your friends. And what I want you to do is realize that anybody who does not have a life that you want and a bank account that looks interesting to you is not somebody that you are going to go to for advice. You can give them love, you can give them time, but you do not need to take their advice. And I want to tell you this because the road to not being the median American is going to be hard. And so what I'm going to talk to you about and what I am actually responding to is this message right here from Michaela. I wanted to look her in the eye and say, if I was you, what would I do to change my situation? How could I break the cycle of poverty with almost 100% likelihood of doing it? How could I not be another statistic that dies broke and or worse, that dies in debt? How could I, in the next 3 to 9 years, become completely financially free? And this is my answer to you, Michaela. Here's what it looks like. There's 2 paths. I'm going to lay them out for you. 2 paths that I see that are the most straightforward way to break the cycle of poverty. Path number 1, I'm first going to say, I assume you have no skill. And by no skills, you probably have some skills, but if you had a lot of skills, you would be compensated for them. Most people who have high-level, in-demand skills make a lot of money, period, end of story. If you are not compensated right now, it means that you do not have a skill set that is highly sought after. And if you did have that highly sought after skill set, you would never want for money again. And so path number 1 is going to be skill accumulation. And we're going to accumulate a skill that people don't talk about anymore, which is a skill in the trades. Basically, if you're watching online, you can look at the list of these, but Rachel did a bunch of analysis and pulled what are the highest paying skilled labor jobs out there. And they're jobs that aren't sexy. These aren't TikToking jobs, but they're jobs in engineering. They're jobs in things like mechanical engineering. They're jobs in things like electricians. And this group of people followed one path. And the path is essentially this. You for the next year, for the next 2 years, anywhere from 6 to 24 months, are going to focus on getting one trade in any of these positions. And these positions all pay somewhere in the realm of $75,000 to $200,000 a year. List out for them really quick. Rachel, what are some of the positions that we found?
Some of the top paying trade positions are elevator mechanic, power plant operator, radiation therapist, nuclear medicine technician, and dental hygienist. And these all make over $75,000 a year, with that top one, elevator mechanic, making almost $100,000 a year, according to Credit Karma.
And here's what I want you to take on. These jobs are not going to be something your friends are going to be excited about. They're nothing that you're probably going to want to brag about. They're not something that we as a society have said is cool. But guess what? The average marketing degree after graduating college makes $37,000 a year. And yet we think that we could say we're a marketing exec and that sounds great. That is not going to break your cycle of poverty. Your cycle of poverty gets broken when you accumulate a set of skills that is so desired that people come after you. You do not have to chase after the jobs. So you're going to spend the next 6 to 24 months in a trade school. You're going to work harder than you have before. You're going to work longer than you have before. And you're going to not make very much money for the next 6 to 24 months. It's going to be pretty miserable. And at the end of that 24 months, you are going to leave with something so precious, yet so few people pursue it. You are going to leave with a skill that no one can ever take from you. If you left this country today and you were ejected into a third world country, they are going to need people who are mechanical engineers still. They are going to need people who understand electricity. They are going to need people to fix their teeth and to be their doctor. No one can take that skill from you. Even if they take every single dollar that you have, they can never take that skill. And so path one will be, you will do what the many will not do, which is you will obsess on a skill that is highly sought after, but maybe not sexy. And after 6 to 24 months, you will start making somewhere between $75,000 and let's call it $150,000. And as you do that over a series of years, you will then apply all the practices we're going to talk about on this podcast for increasing your wealth and keeping the money that you make. But you will start by breaking the cycle of poverty and becoming part of the, let's call it top 10% earners in the US, which is somewhere between 75 to 150K. Most people will spend their life as a check cashier or working as a bank teller or working in a manual labor position and not accumulating a skill. You will not be most people. You will change that. That's path one. Now, path two is a little bit riskier in some ways. Path two is you are going to find a job that is not an hourly pay, that rewards your ability to execute. That's really important, that it is a job that is not hourly, that rewards your ability to execute. And what does that mean? It's a job like sales. For every additional outcome that you have that's positive, you get an additional dollar in your bank account. Your money is not tied just to your time, it's tied to your outcome. And here's what you're going to do. When you choose this job, it requires less skills. You do not have to go to a trade school for 16 to 24 months. You can go today and get a sales job where you get on the phone, where you get on emails, where you go and knock on doors, and you can do these next 7 steps. The first step you're going to do is you're going to apply to jobs until you get one of these. Then as soon as you get in the job, you're going to find the number one top performer at the company that you work at. You are going to study them like a lab rat. And you are going to do every single thing that top performer does that you're capable of. And then you're going to do the third step, which is more. You're going to first mimic the things you can see, which are you're going to get in earlier than them. You're going to stay later than them. You're going to spend less time on social media than them. You're going to work after hours at home on learning more than they do. You're going to skip a bunch of fun and you are going to put a bunch of focus into growing your funds. And you're going to do that for 1 to 3 years in this job. And all you are going to obsess on is learning and earning again and again and again. And you're going to stay in that job until you have maximized your earning potential and you have maximized your learning potential. And then at about year 2 or 3, you're going to plateau and you're going to have learned and earned almost as much as you can in that position. And you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to go to your boss and you're going to ask them for a promotion where you have more responsibilities, more work, more ability to earn, more ability to learn. And if they don't give it to you, you're going to go to a new job because the average salary increase is about 3% if you stay at the same company. And yet if you job hop, it can be anywhere from 30 to 200% increase. So you're going to go to the next place. And then what are you going to do when you get to the next place? You're going to obsess on the top performer at that job. And you are going to work longer, harder, and you're going to learn more until you supersede them in the next 3 years. And after anywhere from 3 to 9 years, you are going to have learned, earned, and accumulated enough money that you will have broken the cycle of poverty for you. And given some of the statistics that Rachel talked about, you may have broken the cycle of poverty for your family and your kids. And you can do that inside of 3 to 9 years. The problem is most people will not dedicate the front loading of pain, and so they suffer a lifetime of pain. If you are willing to sacrifice 3 to 9 years to a lot of hard work, you can live 50 years without the constant strain, tension, and pain that comes with being broke and being really poor. And I know this firsthand because my very first job, I made about $37,000 a year at Vanguard. And I climbed my way through a bunch of positions at Vanguard until I had a job where every call that I made and every increase in sales that I had led to more money for me. And the second that they told me that I couldn't earn more and that I couldn't be promoted, I started looking for new jobs. And then I went to Goldman Sachs. And at Goldman Sachs, I found a place where they paid you for performance to the maximum. And I kept working at Goldman Sachs until they wouldn't promote me. And once they told me that they wouldn't promote me and I'd have to wait here for a year, I went and found my next job at State Street. And at State Street, I looked at the top performer. I looked them in the eye and I said, I'm going to do more than you. And at State Street, I continued to grind until I beat that person. And then I left State Street when I finally wanted to get my own skin in the game and run part of my own company. And that took just about, let's call it 8 years for me to do that. And by the end of that 8-year period, I was financially free and I would never have to work for anybody ever again. I knew nothing about finance in the beginning. I had no idea what a mutual fund was. I had no savings. In fact, I had negative savings. And I often had that terrible sinking feeling where your debit card is your worst enemy because you know that it's going to be out of money so frequently. And at the end of that 8-year period, that was never going to be me again, even through a financial crisis. So you can do the exact same thing if you are willing to front load pain. And all these things that you see on the internet now about people investing to make money and people skipping the grind, it's not true. The only truth is if you front load pain, you will eventually have a lifetime of gain because making money compounds, but it only compounds if you start and if you do the hard work up front. There's no other way around it.
I also want to say that you had a great tweet that was basically like a TLDR of this. Path to your first $100,000. Get a job that pays more if you do more. Mimic everything the top performer does. Get in early, stay late until you can't possibly earn or learn more, then apply for a higher paying job. And I feel like that just feels kind of like the cherry on top having that.
Yeah, it's not like a fun diatribe, because I think everybody wants a little bit of an easy button to life. But the cool thing about it is pretty simple. It's not easy. It sucks to work long hours. Like it sucks to not see the sun for 6 months. But at the end of it, it's totally doable. And I think that's the one cool thing about working in America is like, this is all so possible. This place is crazy in many ways, but we super reward hard work. That part I think makes a ton of sense. Okay, well, one, I think if you guys haven't read the How to Get Rich from Naval Ravikant tweet thread, it's incredible. We'll link it in the show notes. That whole thing is full of so much wisdom. The only thing I'll say about the Naval thread is it's like so theoretical. It's so beautifully said, but so theoretical. Like he says things like some people focus on status games that hinders their wealth creation. And basically what he's saying is what Dave Ramsey says, and I think like a sort of everyday human way, which is people are made poor every day by their need to appear rich. Act your wage. And I love that line, act your wage. Like just because you can't afford a payment doesn't mean you should have a payment. And to keep it really simple, it's earn as much as possible, work incredibly hard while learning and earning. Every time you stop learning and earning, move to the next spot. And then you can apply the Naval Ravikant, like how to get rich, like really, really rich, but only after you're not fucking broke. And when you're fucking broke, all you focus on is getting out of Brokeville because you can't really do much else when you're like super stressed all the time about a roof being over your head. You need to move past that. The second you move past that, you can focus on anything else. But until then, you have one game, and the game is get out of being broke.
That kind of ties into like the deal of the week that we had here on the table, acting your wage. And just because you can make the payment, like doesn't mean you can afford it. That was that Dave Ramsey tweet.
Yep.
And it totally reminded me of buy now, pay later, which we can get into in a few minutes. But there are like a ton of reasons why it's more expensive to be poor that I listed here if you want to cover.
Well, you basically talked about, you live in New York. And there's a bunch of segments in New York that are pretty poor and a bunch of segments that aren't. And like you were like, dude, it's just so much more expensive to be broke than it is to not be broke. And like, what were you talking about with that?
Definitely. So there are things like maybe the grocery stores aren't as good where you live. So you're buying food, like produce, for example, like the grocery store that I go to. Yeah, it's the cheaper grocery store, but my food goes fast, way quicker. So I have to go grocery shop more. And there are a bunch of other things. Like I don't have a Costco, for example.
Yeah.
So I can't buy in bulk. And not even like I could buy in bulk, but I don't have the space. And if I was somebody with a lot of kids and I live in an area where people are living in the same apartment complex as I am, with a lot more kids than just me and my roommate, I'm sure that adds up. Having to go to like these smaller grocery stores that charge a lot more money than places like Costco for food that goes bad a lot quicker. And that's just kind of like a small look into why it's more expensive to be poor. And I can go on and on and on about that. But that's something that's definitely really frustrating. And you do see it in New York often. And I'm sure you see it a lot in other places as well.
Yeah. Well, New York's one of the most expensive cities in the world. So for sure. But I do think that idea of like, it just goes to show like why you have to obsess about not being broke. You like that should be your number one thing to change in your life. Literally everything is more miserable when you're broke. It's more expensive to be broke because you cannot maximize like you can if you have money. It's more likely that you're going to be unhealthy if you're broke, and it's not fun. So like I think you have a moral imperative to get the fuck out of that and do everything humanly possible. And then you can figure out how to enjoy life and whatever's next. But like anybody who tells you just like stop and smell the roses where you are, like not really, man. Like you got to get out of it and you got to focus on that super hard right now. One thing we were like kind of going back and forth on was so we talked about how to get out of it in some way, but there's like a bunch of sneaky little red flag institutions that basically make it their full-time job to make you poor. And you don't think about it actually, because a lot of them try to serve the poor, but what they're actually doing is they're little parasites on the back of people that cannot carry more weight. And so let's hit a couple of them. Like which one do you want to talk about first?
High interest rates on cars is just really, that you can't even ignore that. That to me is something that number one on the list. Obviously student loans. Dave Ramsey has a great tweet here. Maybe before we forgive student loan debt, we should stop allowing student loan debt. Take that as you will, but student loan debt is definitely something that...
Do you have debt?
Oh, I do not. I went to college on the GI Bill, and anything that wasn't, I got covered by scholarships. But I had financially literate parents.
Did they help you apply for the scholarships?
My dad sent me an email when I was a junior or senior, and it was with a giant PDF document attached, and it was a bunch of different scholarships that I could apply to, which was incredible, and that helped. And now I have a bunch of siblings, and he did the same thing. So my dad was great about that, both my parents. But I'm also in like a weird position where, not a weird position, but I'm in a super fortunate position where my parents both have college degrees, both have their master's degrees, and understood how financially horrible it could be graduating college and having this monumental amount of debt, especially because I went to an out-of-state school that was super expensive, which I'm forever grateful for their knowledge. Because I think a lot of parents, especially ones maybe who see college as like the best way out for my kid, like this is how my kid can become not broke. This is how we break the cycle. They don't understand like the actual financial implications that come after graduating, which is really difficult. And it's not their fault for not knowing. We're telling their kids like this is the path. And sometimes like when we were talking about trades, for example, something that's really hard, I think, for people in high school that are looking at that path of college, if you have people like your entire life saying you can break like this cycle of poverty by going to college, and this is like what your parents are telling you, it's so difficult to listen to anybody else. So of course you're going to go to college rather than a trade school because maybe like we're saying on this podcast, like, go to trade school. Like college is freaking expensive. Like don't like avoid debt at all costs. But it's kind of like, you're going to listen to your parents first. And it's really difficult because like their parents don't know, how expensive college is. Or how to apply to scholarships and
that
stuff.
Could be like a whole podcast. I think unless you can get into like the very top institutions and you're broke, like that's probably not the path. I mean, I had a woman who worked for me, Nikki, who was awesome. And she had like $200,000 in student loan debt. And she made good money, but it was just over her head. She couldn't apply for a mortgage because her debt ratio was too high. She had to make decisions based on having to pay those payments every single month. It's the only type of debt that's called non-recourse, which basically means no matter what, it will follow you for the rest of your life. There's no ability to bankrupt your way out of it. And if you think about an institution that was created specifically in order to quote unquote serve people, that's not it. Like, the government gives hundreds of millions of dollars to financial institutions a year for them to increase prices at 3 to 5x the rate of inflation. And so, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking grad school and you're thinking, the next step, unless it is for a massively high increase in salary, a passion that you can't stop and you're in a good enough financial position, or something that you have to do in order to get to the next level, like you're a doctor, an engineer, etc., it's a no, dude. It's a total no. And go and learn the game of business by playing business. Go and study literature by reading literature. You do not need fucking academics in a grad school situation to credentialize you. You just don't. And the only way around that is if you were like me and you could go work at a big corporation and they would pay for your schooling. And that's what I did. So your dad served. He went to the military. My husband served. He went to the military. So he got to go to grad school for quote unquote free for serving. And I got to go to grad school for free for quote unquote serving in a corporation. And if you can get somebody else to pay for it, awesome. But if you have to pay for it, it's a fucking fallacy. And I just do not think you should do it. I think there are 5 institutions we got to be really careful about if we're trying to not be broke. We got to be careful about college, actually, pretty much across the board. We've got to be careful about high interest anything. So that could be high interest payday loans. You'll find those all the time. Anytime there's anything high interest, they have these complex algorithms behind the scenes, and all they are doing is calculating the data to a point in which they are more certain they will win than you will win. It is the same thing as the third institution, which is a casino. And the casino, the house always wins. You can go for fun, but don't ever go because you think you're going to make money. You will not. It is just a game of numbers. The fourth is anything that's like a pawn shop where you think you can use a watch or a piece of jewelry as collateral in order to get a loan. They've also calculated that. And they've calculated the percentage likelihood that they will have an unfair advantage over you. And they will get to keep your thing in order for them to resell it and make more money. So I'm a no on those. And then the last thing that I'm a no on is anything that's like buy now, pay later. And that might even be a mortgage. It is not an income producing asset, owning a house. You have to live somewhere. And at some point, if you want to realize any of the money inside of it, you have to sell. And so be really careful with debt when you're broke in any way, shape, or form. The entire game should be don't fucking play it.
Have you ever had a situation where you've been broke?
Oh yeah, all the fucking time.
What was like the hardest thing or the hardest habit to break?
I think it was, and I'd be curious your take, but mine was just even tracking when I was broke or when I wasn't broke. Like I was always kind of close to being broke. And so it was like, well, I'm just going to go out on Friday night. I spent $100 because I had 4 drinks instead of 2. And I was only allowed to have 2 because that was all I could afford this week. And now I'm in the hole, and now I have a $30 overdraft fee. So now I'm in the hole more than I was before because I don't have enough cash. And at that time, I had no credit. So I didn't get a credit card until I was like senior in college, or maybe had graduated college, because I had no idea that like building credit was a thing that was important. And so, I think the hardest part was just, am I spending too much? Most Americans don't budget. I've never been good at it. And so my only answer was to earn so much. Budgeting was never an option. But what about you? Have you been broke?
So when I first graduated college, my job didn't start for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I think I had 6 months. And even then I had a fellowship where I got paid it was an amazing experience and I loved it, but I didn't get paid a lot. So I lived at home and I had the luxury of living at home, right?
Yeah.
My parents didn't charge me rent when I was living with them or anything like that. So it was incredible, but I didn't have money to go out and see my friends, even to pay for like gas to go out. I was living in the suburbs, like to go to the city, that costs money. You know what I mean? Even if something doesn't cost money, it costs money. And I think the hardest thing was for me actually get out of the mindset when I started having money to be like, okay, I'm not broke anymore. What should I be doing with my money instead of just squirreling it away? So when I was super duper broke, I picked up as many jobs as humanly possible. Even into my first job, I had so many jobs. Like I got into like reselling I sold a bunch of my clothes on the internet.
Yeah.
Sold my brother's clothes on the internet, to be honest with you too. Like I was just doing like anything you could do online to make money that was having to do with like social media management. It came to a point where I was running like dog walking companies' social media accounts. I was just doing like anything I could that only involved my laptop and me sitting in my parents' house having to make money. And so I could afford to move to New York City, which I always wanted to do.
Why didn't you just get a job?
I did get a job, but I still made $60,000 a year in my first job.
Because you didn't have upside. So if you had actions, could you have made more than $60,000?
No, cut off at $60,000.
Yeah,
didn't get retirement in that first job.
Yeah.
So I paid my own retirement. I didn't have debt. I was really afraid of debt too,
Yeah.
to going into it. And when I moved to New York City, I was making, you can live in New York City on $60,000 a year. Like, trust me, like again, saying this out of like an extremely big place of privilege. I had no debt. Like I am privileged. Like number one thing, I know 100%, but I was able to live there on my $60,000 a year job while I was working all those like social media management jobs as well.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing for me to stop doing was like, like leaving those low paying jobs that I had.
Yeah.
And that was so hard for me because I was like, well, these are the jobs that like financially sustained me. Like getting to that next level, like you're talking about when you like hit that level of earning, go to the next thing. I struggled so much with getting to that next thing. It's like, well, they pay me like $50 an hour to run this social media account. Like, say I want to quit this job and go to the next thing. And like, what happens if I don't have that next thing? And even if I have it lined up, like what happens if it's not as good as this? And like,
interesting.
that was a super big, that was just a huge issue. I feel like that I had.
You know, I think most people worry about uncertainty more than just about anything. And so we stay with the certain instead of jumping for what we see as risk in the uncertain. And that might be the biggest reason why actually people stay poor and people stay broke, is because you don't take the risk necessary to hit the next level of the game. You know, you can't move forward in a video game unless you can jump over the chasm, fight the dragon, you know, steal the princess, whatever the case may be. And you have the same exact thing in life, which is if you do not do the risky thing and make the next jump, you'll never get to the next level of the game. And so part of it might just be, how can you make it institutionalized where every 2 years and every time you're not learning and earning more, you move. It's just like every time every time you are in a relationship and you get to a period where you see that he's not going to be the one that you want to marry, you move on. And most people stay in things that are average because they're scared that something might never get better. So maybe we need a whole entire episode on like what's the foundation of change. So I kind of wanted to close this out with a couple things really quick, which is I think we answered Michaela's question.
The hardest thing though, I do want to say the hardest thing I guess for me to give up just as a thing was 100% Amazon, like just little Amazon purchases. I'm gonna close that out. I was thinking about it, like what was the hardest thing?
Actually, well, that's true.
It was like my stupid little Amazon purchases that I did.
Well, that's because there's no friction to purchase. So like I think the tough part about today's world is you can click on something on Instagram, an immediate purchase, and have it sent to you.
Yeah.
And what do? You get an endorphin rush because you have some positive outcome immediately. Yeah. And guess what's the opposite of an endorphin rush? Working 12 fucking hours on something that you don't really like to have future payments. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of have to retrain your brain to like awful things in order to succeed.
So it would be like my hook would break in my bathroom and I'd immediately go to Amazon to replace it, right?
Yeah.
And not being able or knowing being like, okay, I should really wait to do this. Like this just is not a priority. That like, oh my gosh, like you're right. It's such a, like, it's like an itch. Like if something's not perfect or something broke and not being able to fix it immediately, oh man, I don't know why.
Yeah, you have to remember that you have one goal, and the goal is to not be broke.
Yeah.
And anything that is not that goal is not your priority. And if you remember that thing for somewhere between 2 to 3 to 6 to 9 years, which is a long time, you will break it. Like it is completely possible. But if you focus on the things you want today, on the Sephora purchases, on the dress, on the fun, you may never break the cycle. And so you have to stare yourself in the face and ask what the difference is to you of a life that for 6 to 9 years is pretty tough, or for 60 to 90 years is really tough. What do you want? And choose your hard. All right, Michaela, I think we answered your question, and you have 2 paths to choose from. And both of those paths are going to mean no birthday gifts for family. And that's not a need, that's a want. And you are going to have to decide what are the needs that you will feed over a multi-year period. And I can promise you, you can sit down and have a conversation with your family that goes like this. For the next couple of years, I have to focus on getting out of a hole so big, I'm almost drowning. And if I cannot get out of that hole, I'll never be able to buy good birthday gifts. I'll never be able to have fun and go on trips with you guys. And so because of that, I'm asking for your permission and for you to be okay with the fact that I'm not going to be doing a lot of birthday gifts, that there may be no purchases at all for me for this period. And I guess when I say I'm asking for your permission, I'm kind of telling you I need it. And so this will be a hard decision I will have to make for this period of time. Can you support me in it? Their answer will tell you if you should be buying them birthday gifts in the future or not, because the truth of the matter is, you don't have time for other people's desires when you are broke. You have to focus on you, and then you can give after you have cleaned up your own room. All right, I know it's kind of heavy to talk about being broke. It's not that much fun, but I will say that I think if you follow this lesson, you will never have to be one of the statistics of so many Americans who die with nothing. And in fact, maybe you can help the next generation. If you like this, give us a little review. Thanks for being here with me this week.
You know that I got it, no need to look all in the bag. Starting like this cause I work so hard, I'm the best, I only speak facts.
I think when everybody, says your name, they think what I think, which is, how do I steal her butt? Immediately. So I think we should start talking about first, like, it's pretty incredible. Like, you have all these methodologies you use. But for us women, we have a hard time activating our glutes in particular. And I didn't know that was a thing until I started going down your rabbit hole of mind-muscle connection and how important that is for glutes. And so for normies like me who've never done anything like this, how does one steal a Sonata butt?
You got to put in the work.
Dang it, there's still three steps.
It's not easy. There's no magic pill, unfortunately. I say that the magic pill is in the work that you're trying to avoid. So do the work. And unfortunately, like, glutes are a big muscle, so they need a lot of work. But mind-muscle connection is one of the biggest things that I've always employed, which is you touch, you think about the muscle that's working, you are present with the muscles that are working, in this case your glutes. You'll see me on a lot of videos, I'm like touching whatever area, and mostly glutes that I'm working out, because there is a correlation, as you probably know, with mind to body and body to mind. It basically sends those signals up to the brain that we're working these muscles, so let's activate them. And then to get more, if you want to know more like technical aspects of it, there is, in my book, a way to work out your glutes that is effective. So including things that are like a squat or a lunge, which are moving in one vector, and then doing RDLs like hip hinge exercises, and then going into vertical vectors like step ups, doing abduction, which is working your side booty, upper booty, and then a hip thrust, which is like that contractor. So employing all of these different aspects and then hitting it, like 3 times a week. For me, it's really important because it is the biggest muscle in your body and will burn more calories and will help you health-wise.
Yeah, I like that.
As well.
And so basically if we've never heard of that before, mind-muscle connection, the first activation is you touch it. So if I'm like trying to move this part, I actually touch it with my finger. Yeah. And why does that actually help? Like, how have we gotten so disconnected from our muscles?
Because we're thinking about, what am I going to have for dinner? What TV show I'm going to watch, or, the children have, this sport and that activity. We're busy. So we are not in our bodies. Most of us are like, watching a series or something while we're working out or listening to music, or I don't even listen to music anymore because I want to be present with what I'm doing in that moment. That's like my moving meditation in a way, not the discount actual eyes closed and bringing it to, internally, but that's my moving meditation. That's one of the reasons, especially nowadays, that we've become so disconnected. But there's also a chemical process, if you will, that happens when you do actually touch. All of a sudden your brain is like, oh, that's being worked. Like, it's actually a chemical process that's occurring as well, not just a woo-woo that I'm touching them. Like, yeah.
Look, running a podcast or any content operation is a grind. The editing, the clipping, the captions. It's enough to make anyone quit before the fun even starts. Enter Riverside. This tool is your content powerhouse. Forget decent quality virtual calls. Riverside gives you 4K video, pristine audio, and makes deadweight tasks disappear faster than bad ideas. Their text-based editor slashes, silences, and edits errors with one click. Needing some extra clips? Riverside's AI Magic Clips finds the moments people actually care about and delivers them to you. No guessing, no endless replays. And here's the kicker. You don't even need to record in the platform to use its features. You have the option to upload your footage to Riverside, letting it handle the heavy lifting. So you can save your brain power for the creative stuff. So stop drowning in edits, get busy creating, hit the link in the description, use code Cody, and thank me later.
When you talk about moving meditation, I went down a rabbit hole of your stuff. You've talked about this a lot. But I think a lot of us, when we're in the gym, we're like, this is painful. I want to pretend I'm not here. I want to distract myself. And yours is kind of the opposite. So explain what that is.
It is. So I'm maybe a gluten for punishment, but when my mind goes there, like, this sucks, like, I want to get out of here, I'm actually, no, you're going to slow it down. And you're going to add two reps on top of that.
Oh, God.
Just so that, again, I'm kind of bringing it back to the body and not running with the thoughts that are taking over my mind in the moment. Listen, if you watching TV or listening to music or whatever you need to do in the meantime gets you to get moving and work out, do it. If that's the only way that you're going to do it, do it. But if we're talking about then maximizing like your results and talking about like the nitty gritty, then yes, you'd want to kind of fully concentrate on what you're doing in that particular moment.
Yeah. When you grew up in Albania, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you left when you were a teen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you into fitness and kind of the same Sonata there that you are here, or did something change?
Yeah. I've been an active kid, so I've always been like on trees and, you know, climbing to get like the ripest fruit, which I saw some tangerines outside and I stole a couple.
You did it right now.
I did because it just, I don't know, it brings back like such good memories of that part of the childhood. So I've been an active child, but I didn't excel at sports. I played every sport imaginable, but I wasn't like an excellent athlete because I think one of the things there is that when I got into the sports, like as a teenager, it wasn't for the right reasons. I just wanted to work out, be as skinny as possible, as thin as possible. So it wasn't like I want to be just a good athlete. And now it's become to like I want to be the best athlete that I possibly can at this point in my life. But yeah, that was an active child, super active child, to now doing what I do.
What's Albania like? I've never been. What was it like growing up there?
So Albania was a communist country at that time, when I was born and well into like my early years. It was tough. It was waiting in line for ration food, placing, you know, a water bottle in a very long line of people to claim your spot so you'd get your ration food. And then with the turning over of like communism to democracy, quote unquote, that also presented a lot of issues. There was a civil war that broke out. You know, I would stand in line for like, I mean, it sounds surreal sometimes, right? For a loaf of bread and being like passing out, being elbowed by adults because, you know, you had only a limited amount of food that was being distributed at that point in time. So you just had to fight for it, literally like survival, like literal survival. So yeah, that even though, you know, my mom was a professor, my dad was a doctor, you are slightly better off than other people in the sense that, you know, my dad would get extra payment in the way of a sheep or or some chickens, you know, so sometimes you'd have that little surplus, if you will. I can remember like as clear as day, like the first can of soda that he brought home because somebody had gotten it from somebody that gave it to him, literally like a can of soda that me and my two younger sisters split into 3 little espresso cups, and I can still taste that in my mouth. And yeah, so
That's very different than LA today.
Yeah, it is. And like living this reality right now where, you know, I'm training Kim Kardashian and I have a couple of businesses that I run, and I would say, yeah, like a very successful individual, like that almost seems like whose life was that? But it was very much my life.
Do you remember like the line? Do you remember the lines? Do you remember those moments?
Oh, they're like, I keep getting chills as I speak about it. But yeah, you get me emotional. Yeah, I remember the lines very vividly. I passed out in one of those lines, like, you know, waiting for bread and in the dry heat of Albania, probably 8-10 years old, you know.
Oh my
yeah.
God. And were you there by yourself with your family?
I was the oldest of 3.
3 girls?
3 girls. So
Wow.
I a lot of the time assumed the responsibilities of the household. I was like, I consider myself as like the boy of the house, you know. I was that tomboy that I wanted to protect and to care for the family and for my sisters and my mom. I forget the question.
No, it was a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the reason why you care about being so strong now? Is that?
It is absolutely one of the main reasons why I okay. I thought we were gonna talk about
I
business.
started with a butt, and now I'm talking about bread lines.
But it's truly, it's so multifactorial. It is, caring for my sisters, my younger sisters. It is caring for my mom, who had she had me at 19, and a child very much herself, who was dealing with her own, history of anxiety and whatnot. And to have a kid that young, I had to at times be her parent as well, so I think that's one of the main reasons why empowering women to step into their strength and really embody who they're supposed to be at their fullest is so important to me. That
It also makes sense why you've attracted these millions of people that follow you online, because it's so much deeper than aesthetics. I mean,
it is.
I had followed you, and you are a very strong woman physically, but going through that mentally and emotionally at such a young age, incredibly rare. How did you guys get out of Albania and get to the US?
It was at the height of that civil war that I was talking about. It was,
and this is where it was Albanians versus, there was
it was Kosovo that went to, like Serbia went to war with Kosovo. Actually, let's take a step back. It was a little bit before that. It was like 2 years before that, if I remember correctly, where this civil unrest, people broke into the armories where they hold, is that the armories? Where they hold the guns and everything, weapons, and they were literally just shooting at each other like targets, and
it was racial based or religion based.
It wasn't anything. It was just a rebellion against the government, against there were some pyramid schemes that went on that stole people's money. So it was just I was young at the time, so the full story, but it was, those are kind of the main components. It was just turnover from communism. It was just something that had built up over that time. So the pyramid schemes, and then people were just literally shooting at each other, or were making targets of something can you make that shot? So I remember clear as day when that started, going under the bed and hiding for cover, because it was extremely scary. I don't even know how all of us in my family made it out alive. We fortunately, to go back to your question, won the lottery to actually come here legally. So we were equipped with a green card, which very fortunate as compared to other people. So right away we had the green card. Then we got our passports, and that came at a time that was needed.
Did you speak English?
I was the only one in the family that spoke English, because I had taken some courses, some private English courses, not one-on-one, but group courses that were outside of school hours. So, that came again with the responsibility of having to translate, at 14, 15 for my parents, and had to carry them through. I was the only one to,
And do they all live here now?
They're in New York. Yeah, they live here.
Oh my Lord.
They're better equipped now, so thankfully.
You said, Mom, learn some English.
Yeah.
Incredible. And what's fascinating is I want to talk a little bit about the app and the business that you have too, because it translates to so much more than physical strength, which is really one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on. Everybody knows you on the internet for your strong body and these videos that you do that are very easy to understand about how to get strong and beautiful for women. You could be strong and fit and feminine, and yet there's so much depth here. And so you could have quote unquote just started another workout app, but instead you decided to do something a little bit different. Will you talk about that? And now it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of areas in our lives, especially in women's lives, that are sometimes spoken and unspoken that we would like a little bit of help with and a little bit more direction. I mean, there is so much information out there nowadays that it's so overwhelming to decipher through. I mean, God knows how many reels my mom sends me on a daily basis.
Oh, me too.
I'm like, Mom,
forget
put
about
your
like
phone
children
down.
and perimenopause now. It's
Oh
like we
my
have to know
gosh.
everything.
Yes, yes. So you have to be an expert. You have to be your own advocate. You have to maybe have a medical degree and a lawyer. You have to be a lawyer maybe in some situations, a law degree. So the idea is to really help women with not just fitness. I think fitness is paramount. It is, taking care of our health is probably one of the most important investments that we'll ever make in our life. But I think there are so many other areas that we need expertise on, like true expertise that you can kind of go in one place and find all of this versus scouring the internet or versus getting fed all of this sometimes very contradicting information.
Yeah. And so the app's called We Rise.
Yes, we rise together, or together we rise.
I like it.
Yeah.
And the idea is there's fitness on it, but you're going to have a bunch of women speak on different subjects.
Yes,
And-
and have actionable items, not
Right.
just speak. So, somebody's speaking at you, but actually giving you tools that you can implement to achieve goals that you're working on. So whether that is changing your mindset or navigating through careers, changing careers, or creating your own brand, that's coming in 2025. What we do have now is an expert in habits and a nutritionist expert as well to help you, with even things like what are macros? How many macros should I be
Dude,
consuming?
I need this app. It's so overwhelming.
Yeah, it's
And a lot of
super
it's not
simple.
for women. Like I have buddies that are all your buddies too that are health experts, but most of them are men. And
Yes.
so, it's intermittent fasting. Well, it turns out that's not that great if you're trying to get pregnant, for instance. I had no idea.
It's not that great, period. If
Tell
you're,
me.
especially when you're hitting your late 30s and early 40s, it is just not a good idea because of our hormones. Our hormones are much different than men's hormones, and that can wreak havoc in our hormonal system. So, I used to, a long time ago, intermittent fast, and I've changed that because, naturally I wasn't like a breakfast eater, but now I kind of make myself have that 20 to 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning, 30 minutes within waking up, so that I can tell my body basically, we're good. We have some nourishment. We don't have to go into the fight or flight mode.
Right.
Because as women, we are predisposed to go into that mode. We work out of the sympathetic system more so than the parasympathetic. So that and that kind of helps start the day that way.
To really be simple here, what's the right way to start the day breakfast-wise as a chick? What should we be eating in the morning?
Make sure you're eating like 20, 30 grams if you can of protein in the morning to just start you off, because your body is looking for that protein, for all those amino acids, for all those nutrients. To keep it simple for myself, I don't have time to cook first thing in the morning, so I'll make a protein smoothie that's also a very digestible, absorbent, meal that you can make quickly. I throw in, it's pretty simple, blueberries to get a little bit of fiber. I throw in some protein in there, protein powder, either almond milk or oat milk, unsweetened usually. And what else? I throw in some nuts. I throw in my creatine in there. And I think that's pretty much it.
What's the deal with creatine? People
Yeah.
are really excited about it right now and seem to think
Yeah.
that people should be taking creatine.
Yes. For a long time, see, I don't jump onto like supplements right away. I like to see the data and see where it's going before first of all, let's back up. Supplements are not necessary unless you are lacking in nutrition. I always go nutrition first, make sure that that's on point, and then you can see where you can supplement. It turns out that creatine is a pretty important supplement, not just in muscle growth, but in brain health as well. So I've started myself adding creatine to, especially as, get a little bit older, and, we want to really keep that muscle on. We want to grow that muscle, that strength, as well as keep our cognitive functions in check. Yeah. And creatine helps with that a lot.
Yeah. You've said before that one of the things that's a pet peeve of yours is that women say, hey, when I go lift, I'm going to become really bulky.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that? Is that what happens with women? We work out, we instantly get huge muscles.
Huge. No, I mean, it's how we're built, like our hormones do not allow us for us to become that big naturally. I'm sure there is steroids and other anabolics that like people can use that can do that, and that's their choice. And maybe that's the fear there, because people see some of these bodybuilder women that and when you go to certain classes of bodybuilding, then they're almost like forced to take them, and you're not going to become that, because that is not being done naturally. Mm-hmm. Just lifting, eating properly will not get you to that point. It'll get you to be healthy, to grow healthy muscle that you need for quality of life, for quality longevity. I mean, muscle to me is a currency. It's a currency to health. That's how I see it. And it used to be, again, how can I be as thin as possible because of these thin models? Now I'm like, how can I put as much muscle as possible while I can, so that I can prevent anything that might be detrimental to my health down the road,
Yeah, it seems like more women are working out these days with weightlifting, but it's still not that common. Like, of my girlfriends, maybe 10% I can think of actually like to lift. Why do you think lifting is so important for women?
Health, longevity, preventing osteoporosis, preventing sarcopenia, like muscle loss, like preventing all of these diseases that are at the top of the list from which women die from, because you want to prevent the fall, or you want to be able to get up from a fall, and those are and weightlifting, it's so important to do right now, or wherever you're at, whatever point you're at. It is so important, whether you're in your 20s, but then it becomes even more important when you're in like 30s and 40s and 50s and so on, to lift relatively heavy, I would say, with great form. It's our health.
How do you know if you're lifting heavy or not?
So usually heavy, it's all relative, but I would say if in a program you're recommended, let's say 12 reps or 8 reps, heavy means going up until that 8 or 12 rep, and you're not able to go any further than that. Maybe you have 1 or 2 more reps in the tank, but you're basically AKA going to failure. And that's considered heavy, while maintaining great form. Great form. You don't want to compromise form for the weight that you're lifting.
When I knew I really liked you on the internet? When I saw that you also wear your hair up to the gym. I go to like Collective, and there's a whole thing there in Austin, and everybody's like all dolled up in the gym. Yeah. Have you noticed this trend? And the hair down? No, you don't have that long hair. Yeah. But I'm immediately judgy. If I see like a woman working out with her hair all the way down, I'm like, oh no. Yeah. I'm never going to look that cute. So I'm immediately judgy of it. But you talk a lot about intensity too in your workouts. Like, how important is it how hard you go? Should you be sweating? Does any of that matter? Is it just, do you have to go fast? What does like a workout look like in your mind? Yeah. That's ideal.
I go hard and heavy.
And you're sweating? Are you sweating?
I grunt. I do. I'm one of the people that sometimes by like the last rep or two, I don't maybe look like that in the videos.
No, I've never heard a grunt. Can we confirm?
I don't want to be too distracting. I do breathe heavy, but yeah, I think intensity is as important as like lifting heavy. But and then when it comes to intensity, are you talking about like when you're lifting heavy, or are you talking about like high intensity, like training, interval training, or all of
the above? Yeah, my husband always says that you can't, like, I go to the gym and I do the reps, but I'm probably not going as hard as I should. Maybe not as heavy, maybe not as fast, maybe too many breaks.
Well, breaks. Fast, you don't have. Slow is fast and fast is slow. So like lifting slow actually will help you with that mind-muscle connection even further. So slow down the movements and then think about touching, feeling, thinking about the muscles that are working. So you don't have to go, yes, don't go fast, go slow. When it comes to, yes, most people don't lift as intensely as they probably can because they're afraid, again, especially women, of bulking. And I would say test yourself, test what that 12 rep to failure is. Like, how close are you to that? Like, if you're doing, say, bicep curls, or if you're squatting, can you do 20, 30? Then you probably need to it's time.
too light.
It's time. It's too light.
Okay, fine. You've talked about, you train Kim Kardashian, which maybe a few people know on the internet who that is, and other
Just a few.
just a few, and other
350 something million.
wild. Also, like, ultimate businesswoman.
Hopefully I didn't get that wrong.
I think she's fine. I think she's doing good. But incredible businesswoman, as are you too. What is it? How did that start? Like, how do you start training celebrities? How do they find you? What is that like working with celebrities?
She found me.
She slid into your DMs?
She slid into my DMs, literally. Well, not her, but her people. Her people initially. I've had the honor and the pleasure of working with a few celebrities, including a queen of a country.
That's wild.
That was wild. Yeah, very wild. And she's still a really good friend to this day. But surreal. Yeah, they approached me because I was never in the business, if you will, of training celebrities. I never even thought that, this little old me could do that. But yeah, the opportunities have kind of come across because at the end of the day, I've always been of the belief I'm going to put my best self out there. And I find, like, with like aesthetics come if you put in the work. Yeah. All the good things in business come if you put in the right kind of work. So, yeah.
Yeah. You also, I think, you mentioned some really raw and honest things in your life about depression and how fitness helped you with that, and then obviously what you shared earlier. What happened before? Were you depressed, and did fitness help you get out of it?
I found out later in my life that I have a genetic predisposition to that, and I guess you could have realized that by seeing that my mom suffered from anxiety, and I guess she told me that her father also did have. So, you can see kind of a pattern, but that I got genetic testing done and it was confirmed. So, yeah, I did as a teenager. As a young child, I don't know that I can see any of the things that I suffered from when it came to like my teenage years. So it probably was a compounding effect and of like being in a new country and having to take the role of a parent in some ways. And then this genetic predisposition, which I don't know if there is any data out there or any studies that show that maybe it creeps in at a certain point in your life, maybe with your hormones changing and now you're a teenager and that kind of gets activated, if you will. I have no idea how that plays. But I did go through anorexia at the time too. So it was kind of everything kind of fell on my lap at the same time. And working out, strength training in particular, was my way out of all of that.
Did you find it? Like, how did you go from anorexia and being depressed to like pulling yourself out of bed and deciding to move? That takes a strong human.
Sometimes I do question like where I find this. It must be like some place that I'm pulling out from, because yes, you have this kind of like two very opposing realities. This things that just want to keep you down, and then this like very crazy drive at some points, which I think I have. But I knew that something was wrong. So I would find help. Like in college, found a therapist and would try to read books. Like self-help books has been like my biggest friend, alongside with like obviously working out, was like self-help books, a lot of psychotherapy, a lot of even like graduate, like college level books. For some reason fascinated me. Maybe I have a fascination with the brain and the mind and how it works. So it was kind of like a loop, maybe, you know, help yourself to get out of this situation. And that I did. And plus I had catalysts, like an amazing primary care doctor at one point where she was running marathons, like, I don't want to say every month, but at least every like quarter she was running a marathon. She was like in her 50s and it was incredible, like incredible shape. And that was like kind of the starting points, like, Sonata, just run. Just go for a run.
That's what your doctor told you?
Yeah, just go for a run. Because you know what happens. Like, it's not sometimes you're like, you know, take this medication. It's like
that's
the easiest thing. Yeah.
Did they ever try to prescribe you prescription drugs?
Yes. Yeah. So it was like,
was that
also a
first?
combination of both. Yeah, of both. But the running like really was life-changing. Like that was my little step into doing things to take care of my health properly. Doing it for the right reasons, you know, to get out of the eating disorder and anxiety and depression, and not to diminish myself and make myself smaller, and like doing cardio. And so like I started running with the goal, like I'm going to run a marathon, and that brought the need to nourish my body properly. And then I found myself in strength training. You know, I was still kind of like running, and was going to my local gym, and just friends of mine were like, you should try weightlifting. And I also had the fears of like, I don't want to be bulky, like I don't want to be big. And but once I started down that path, there was like no turning back. Yeah.
You know, I was reading a study the other day that for women under 30 in the US, 60% of them at some point in time have been on an SSRI or an antidepressant.
Yeah.
And that there's an epidemic really in the US, you know, whether that's over prescription or over necessitation or, you know, not really sure. But for young women who are anxious or depressed, obviously we're not doctors, we're not making medical advice, but would you tell them to replicate what you're doing? Would you say, try the gym, try running? What do you tell young women who reach out to you about that?
Try physical activity first, because just as little as 150 minutes a week of physical activity can have almost twice as much of the effect as an antidepressant or as an anxiety medication can have. So try that first. That's your natural antidepressant. That's your natural like anti-anxiety. And maybe, again, like you said, we're not medical doctors, so we're not making any of those statements, but why not start there with something natural? And if you need to, I mean, there's cases where people just can't get out of bed, just can't do it. So why maybe then do it in conjunction? Consider that. Or utilize, if it's not medically necessary, the prescription to get out of bed, but then do something with it. Go to the gym, and then hopefully by setting up that healthy habit of moving your body and working out, you can then in time, like I did, ditch the antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication.
You were able to get off of it entirely?
Yeah.
Wow.
I am off of it. It's been 10 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what does a day in the life look like for you today? Obviously, besides podcasting.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a big part of it.
Lately it has been.
Yeah, you're running a bunch of businesses.
Been.
But what does it look like, a day in the life, if you got to choose?
Yeah.
What would it be?
I get up, like I said, I make my smoothies so that I
like what time? Are you like a 4:15 riser? You look like an early riser.
No, I'm not.
Really? Okay.
I'm not. I need that little like extra REM sleep in the morning that I can get. My sleeping is important to me. Sleep is another like component of health. So if I can get that right amount of sleep, I'm not going to get up in the morning at 4:15. So I usually it's like 6:30.
Okay.
That's more realistic for me. I don't want to lie. So I get up, I make my smoothie, I make my cacao. The cacao is my caffeine substitute. And I either have meetings. It's like there's no day that is exactly the same. There's like meetings. I have to train Kim. I have to go to the gym. Like those pieces of the puzzle kind of move around. I work on content. I still manage my own page. I have a few other social media platforms that I have not given up the controls yet. I manage it. I put the content together. I added the content. So all of what you see is done by me, unless it's something from the We Rise or Zentoa, which is the clothing brand page. I've just finally, the past few months, decided to give up.
It still looks good. I think you're crushing it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Plus, the clothes are really cute. That's your brand that you started.
Yes. Zentoa, my little mindful warrior.
Yeah. Why did you start that brand? Like, there are a lot of workout brands out there. What made you think I want my own and I don't like with options?
I just wanted something that I could wear all the time and feel good in it, like all the time, because that's what I live in the workout clothes in Zentoa pretty much. So I wanted something that was fashionable. I wanted something that made women feel good, and it was great quality. So that's where I started. But to go back to it's not an easy business, like clothing industry and like competing. It's yes, you're like, I mean, good for you. I should have known. Why didn't I? Like, I wish I knew before. Told you. But you make certain decisions early on when you don't really know how like your following is and what that translates into and what you're able to order and sell. So it's a tough business, especially for a small brand when you're trying to compete with larger brands that can produce tons of units at super low cost. And here you are, producing a fraction at a higher cost. So then you have to pass that on to the consumer. And but it's still my little baby, the little engine that could.
Well, it's really cool stuff that looks unique, and you can tell is designed by a woman who actually cares about the shapewear because she's got to wear it every day, which makes a huge difference, I've found. And a lot of the times, I think these big brands before were hard to compete with, but now, you go and use some of the big brands, and I won't name any names to be a jerk, but quality definitely comes down, I think, at scale.
Yeah, because even those brands are suffering. Like, just to hear some of the margins that they're having to deal with, it's like it's they're suffering. So they're having to cut on quality. They're having to cut corners. Yeah. And that is one thing that I've never wanted to do. Like, I didn't want to cut corners. I didn't want to produce something and white label it, or I wanted to really stand behind the products that I put out there, like something that I was proud of, like wearing and sporting around the gym.
It's true too, because then you're not going to attract a Kim Kardashian, you're not going to attract a Carly, you're not going to attract the type of people you want in your life if you have a cheap brand.
Right.
They don't want to be associated with that. Right. So I think that's really beautiful.
She likes Zentoa. I give her pieces. She puts them on because they do shape you nicely, especially the behind.
Yes. So that's how I get your butt. I just wear the clothes.
That's what I should have said from the beginning.
What kind of marketer are you? We have to work on this.
I am bad.
Okay, I do want to talk about so your day. You wake up in the morning. You wake up at 6. You're making the smoothie. You're going to meetings. You're doing some working out. Probably some more meetings. Only one workout a day?
Yes.
Okay.
It's funny. Like, I used to work out more when I had a corporate job and had, like a super busy corporate schedule than I work out now. You used to find me in the gym for a few hours, and now I'm lucky if I can get, usually it's like 45 minutes to max on a good day, an hour and a half. When I'm doing lower body, that takes a little bit longer. So on a day-to-day basis.
That feels doable, like for a woman. Because when I see some of the women in the gym and they're there for like 2 hours, I'm like, dang it. Or they have like 2 different workouts during the day. That can be tough.
It's unnecessary. You don't need to be doing 2 workouts a day unless that's you're a bodybuilder, and that's what you're going for. If you're some bodybuilders do 2 workouts a day. I've never done that. Even when I was competing, I did bikini bodybuilder competition, so like the
I've
very
seen 'em.
first level.
I've seen you.
So even then, I didn't do 2 workouts a day.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you ever was it ever hard to put your body on the internet? I mean, I get comments on the internet and I talk about business stuff, but I don't really get comments about what I look like because it doesn't really matter. They could be like, you're poor, you're lying, Codie, you really
Right.
don't know what you're talking about. But it's never really my body. I think it would freak me out to put that on the internet. Does that ever get to you, or did that in the beginning?
I don't know how I bypassed that. At some point I did. I think the hardest thing was hitting like 100,000 followers. I'm like, I think I didn't sleep that night where I'm like 100,000 people are watching me do this, and that was like and then I don't know, I just kind of like adjusted myself to the reality of having so many people look at me and look at my body. And honestly, when it comes to like I know there's like a lot of negativity sometimes. I don't have. I'm super grateful for my audience, that they're incredible. They don't have any negativity, much, if any at all. But even if there is, it almost kind of makes you stronger, because you can take it 2 ways. You can allow it to bring you down, and that's the only thing that you think about, or you can take it as like, this is not a reflection of me, this is a reflection of the person leaving that comment. So it just kind of builds more confidence in that sense for me, because I go the other way where I'm like, no, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, and that's your opinion. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Oh, it's beautiful. Do you ever feed the trolls? Do you ever clap back at them? Talk a little shit? Ever once?
Very rarely. When there's comments about steroid use.
Oh, that one gets you. There's always one that
That
gets
one,
me.
because I am such a puritarian, if you will, when it comes to like what I put in my body. Like, I don't even take an ibuprofen, for not mentioning any brands. Like, I don't even take anything, or I try not to, if I've got super bad cramps, like maybe on those days, very rarely even. So I just move my body and the PMS goes away. But if my diet is so clean, why would I do something like that to myself? Why would I ingest that? No, like I refuse to.
Yeah.
So that's what gets me, because I put in so much work with nutrition and working out and mindset, that it kind of diminishes, takes away from what I do. And also, I think more importantly than that is sending a message to my audience, to other women, that is not achievable. She's taking something to achieve that. And I don't want that message to be out there. And it's like, no. And I don't necessarily want you to achieve my body. You achieve the best version of you, but know that it's attainable. Whatever you're wanting to attain, it's attainable, or a version of it. So that, I think that's what bothers me the most, is like, don't speak on my platform to my audience, because they're listening and they're watching.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's very easy there's always easy to tell people why they can't. It's very hard to inspire people why they can. And so I think that's really, really beautiful. What stuff do you do that's not working out for your body? Like, are we doing red light? Are we doing acupuncture? Like, what else should we do alternative wise to stay healthy in your mind?
When I can, I'll hit a cold plunge, I'll hit a sauna, I'll do those, but I don't always have time for those things, and they're not always readily available. So I just did actually chase the real dopamine kind of post, and it went viral, if you will. And it includes things like cold plunge and sauna and meditate and all of these things. And people are like, I don't have time for all of that. I'm not doing all of those things every single day. I don't have access to all of those things every single day, but whenever I can, and pick and choose, if it's sauna, if it's cold plunge, if it's meditation, if it's yoga, if it's working out, like whatever those elements that you can bring in that will release that natural dopamine, do that. For me, working out is a non-negotiable, meditating is a non-negotiable, and I do a little bit of yoga after my workout, just like 5-10 minutes to it's my cool down. So those are kind of my non-negotiables. It's the mindful stuff, it's the meditation and the yoga and the workouts.
Yeah.
And obviously the nutrition.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I also think it's cool that you share all that other stuff too. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, man, I think Gwyneth Paltrow did such a cool thing by normalizing the extra crazy stuff that you can do. We don't all have access to it. We can't all afford it.
Right.
But like, I still like to know what's up.
Exactly.
Nobody's yelling at Andrew Huberman for having access to all this stuff. Why are we yelling at the ladies for having it?
Right.
It's very weird.
Right.
And even with Kim, like I want to know what weird shit she's doing that makes her look so great. And maybe we can't afford all of it, but at some point we will be able to afford more of it because it all becomes more accessible.
Absolutely. I think it's like that view, at least for me. I think people think that this is what she does all day, every day.
You're
I
just
like
a
take care of my
woman of
body. I
leisure.
work out. I work out all day, every day. That's what I do. Meanwhile, it's like the time in my life when I've worked out the least, if you will. Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about before, meetings take time. As you know, 1 hour meeting turns into a 2 hour meeting. Training, somebody takes time. So it's all of these components that come together that, I don't work out all day, every day. I run 2 businesses. I run social media platforms. Don't have time for all of that.
No, you don't, I'm sure. So is there anything that makes you nervous still? Like you've kind of achieved this peak in so many different things. You have a couple incredibly strong businesses. You have this huge social platform. You're hanging with all these celebs. Like what makes you nervous these days? Is there anything you're doing right now that you're like, oof, I'm pushing the edge?
What makes me nervous these days? I'm a perfectionist, so I'm always nervous. I mean, I'm always contemplating whether I'm doing enough, like with the We Rise app, am I providing the most value that I can? Am I providing the best content that I can? So those things, as much as I've minimized them. They don't keep me up as much at night. They don't keep me up as much, but they still do to a certain degree. But it's also, when it comes to, like, I have people depending on me now that are part of the We Rise app in Santoa. So I want to make sure that I bring my best self for them and for everybody that I serve.
Yeah, hiring employees is scary because then you are responsible for them in some way.
Absolutely.
At least I think. Do you have things that you tell yourself when you absolutely do not want to go to the gym or you absolutely do not want to do more? What's your inner dialogue sound like? Can we steal it?
I try not to have an inner dialogue. I do. So it's not, maybe brushing your teeth is not the best. I don't know. Do you negotiate with yourself whether you got to brush your teeth?
No, that would be gross if I did. I would admit that.
So it's kind of, for me, is like that as well. It's just, we're going to get to the gym. We're maybe not going to crush it on that particular day. We're just going to start with whatever feels comfortable. I usually go for like a seated something, like maybe seated abductions. Just sit and kind of move your legs in and out. That seems kind of like easy. And then that kind of builds that motivation. So I don't wait for the motivation. I don't talk myself into feeling motivated. I act my way into being motivated, because that motivation comes with movement.
That's a great point. So move first and then your mind sort of follows.
Absolutely. And also, like, if you keep in mind that things that are usually hard in the moment, like working out or making the right choice when it comes to nutrition, like, we'll have that reward later. We'll give you that reward later. Just keeping in mind, like, how good you feel afterwards. Like, I know this is cliche, but I've never regretted a workout that I did do.
No, man. I never regret it once I get to the gym.
Exactly.
It's just getting to the fucking gym sometimes. But
I mean, I've had people in the app that slept with their clothes on so they could just make sure that I've already put these clothes on. I might as well get up and like get some, like work out in the morning. Just eliminate, when it comes to that, when you know that you're a person that's contemplates that a lot, that is struggling with yourself. Am I going to work out today? I don't feel like working out. Set yourself up for success. Have your clothes ready, have your shoes ready, know what you're going to be doing. Leaving it out. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. So that's like another thing. Like, know what you're going to be doing. Know when you'll be doing it. Like, what time of day. Like, schedule it almost like a meeting. Schedule it the day before, or schedule your week. Where are you going to do it? Are you going to do it at the gym? Or are you going to do it at home? So scheduling and kind of removing all the unknowns and the stressors around it makes it more accessible.
It's so true. And I still don't do so many of those things, which is like the funny part. It's layering a few actions on top of that. Now, you are going to have in the app mindset, but also nutrition. Is the saying true that you can't work your way out of a bad diet?
Yeah, it is true. Unfortunately, it is true. I mean, we do have currently habits and nutrition that's currently in the app. So that's great because it does help people with setting up these new habits and just in general new habits and ditching old ones and then moving into better nurturing themselves. But your original question was, you can't out-train a bad diet because, and that, what does a bad diet look like at the end of the day? If you're not nurturing with enough protein, then you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not building the strength and the muscle that you need. If you are putting in foods that are not good for your body, like sugars and whatnot, that's also, you're not going to be able to out-train that because your body can only process so much.
Yeah. Do you drink alcohol?
Well, I think I heard this on another podcast. I knew it was coming with Mike, actually.
Yeah.
I used to love a glass of wine in the evening. I used to love it because for me it was like an experience. You know, I just love the experience. It doesn't serve my body anymore. It doesn't serve, like from even a glass of wine, I could have a hangover the next day. I could experience like heart palpitations at night. So it's like that trade-off just is not there. I will still do it once in a while, make sure like I drink a ton of water and clean, try to do like clean alcohol. But it's just not something that benefits me anymore.
So what do you do at the end of the day when you're like, how that's how I used to think about it. We were kind of taught, especially in finance, we drink a little bit too much, but at the end you're like, it's a long day. I got to wind down. I grab a glass of wine. I sit down. Like it was my habit. Yeah. So what do you replace it with?
Walks. That's like walking my dog in the park and watching the sunset and just chatting with people. That's kind of been a huge, honestly, it created anxiety in the beginning because for me, like, that was my thing. I created a habit. We create these habits that we rely upon. And it's just a matter of like putting in the reps with a new habit and walking and meditating and truly listening to my body and what that did for my body.
Now, do you crave like meditating and walking? Like I like meditating in the morning. Yeah. But if you're like, Codie, long day, go ahead and meditate. I'd be like, the thing is, no. Like it doesn't sound like tasty enough.
Yeah,
But do you does it feel tasty for you now? Does it feel like lovely?
Yeah, it does. It does. Especially it depends. You try out different kinds of meditation. I went to Bali and got certified in meditation and breath work and did learn some meditation and breathwork techniques that just give you that real good feeling so that it does have that reward effect.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Do you do it with your man?
I do.
Really?
We went together actually.
Who leads the meditation?
Oh, none of us.
None
it's
of us.
A pre-recorded, meditation.
I like those too.
Yeah.
Do you listen to a person in particular?
Or you could do a silent, like those were the, a couple of things that I mean, more than that, but like those are kind of our go-tos. If we want a little bit more of an activating, like feel good, maybe more of a breath work. So you're really oxygenating your body and moving your energy. And then if you want more of a relaxing, going back to center, then it's more of a silent meditation.
Yeah. Do you ever get them to do like eye gazing or anything?
we did eye gazing, and we had set the timer wrong. So it was like staring for like 10 or 15 minutes. Like, I think this has been, it's been longer than 5 minutes.
I tried to talk Chris into that. He was like, what is wrong with you? He loves meditating. He does it a lot now.
Yeah.
It helped him a lot when he was in conflict zones too, actually. I forget what the name of the woman, Ziva Meditation maybe is her name. Anyway, but he started doing what I would consider kind of similar to transcendental meditation, which is what I do or like. And then I started listening to, do you know the guy David G? Kind of looks like Santa Claus. No.
It's not coming. Yeah, it's not. Sometimes it's like I'm bad with names. I know faces. We see them maybe like
I'll
floating
send you
around.
One. You can tell me what you think if you like
sure.
him or not.
Okay.
Are you going to have a meditation person on the app eventually?
I'm sure we're gonna have somebody that's dedicated to that. Even though I am certified in it twice over, because I went to India and got certified in yoga and meditation and breath work, and then went to Bali to further my meditation and breath work knowledge and the certification there as well. But I feel like we might need somebody that has, and that was more for my personal and usage, if you will. I'd love to bring somebody that's their sole focus. Right now, there is some meditation and yoga on the app as well, just shorter. I guide people through it, through the yoga and through the meditation. There's little like 15-minute, 5-minute yoga, 15-minute meditations, just like graspable little pieces for people that are short on time. But yeah, eventually that's definitely the goal.
I love that. Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking that these days I get a little overwhelmed. There's so many things about health overall. And especially like right now, what's going on with like, Make America Healthy Again. And there's a lot of commentary about seed oils, GMOs, additives versus like portion size, calorie count. Is it both? Mike's take, Israel, he was basically like, hey, stop eating so much and then you won't be fat. And then you have RFK who's like, we're getting poisoned by seed oils. Is it both? What do you think?
I would side with Mike's a little bit on that in the sense that let's tackle like the big rock issues, like the easier issues. And are you eating, what's the calorie amount that you're eating? What's the macro breakdown? Like those are, I feel, in a sense, a little bit easier. And then when you have grasped that, when you're consuming enough protein, when you're prioritizing protein, then you can dial it in. Am I eating the right type of foods? Am I eliminating, all of these other things that we know by now are not good for our bodies? But it's a step-by-step process. And that's what I tell like my family too, like stop consuming all of this crazy information, like don't eat spinach and oxalates and this and that. Like don't do that. Let's start with the basics, like eat enough protein, move your body properly, because that is proven that will most likely override some of these other things that you're not even doing in like big amounts, and if you want to, then once you've got this like foundation and big rock issues, then dial it in, like we were talking about before, even with supplements, like big rock issues, and then see if you need to like supplement
That's
around
a really
that.
Good point. I guess it's sort of like money, because it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, you could learn about equity investing and shorts and, options, or you could earn more money and spend less.
Exactly.
And you could start with those two things.
Exactly.
Interesting. That makes me feel better, because these days I'm like, I can't keep track of all of the
It
things
is so
we're supposed to
overwhelming,
do.
and then people don't do anything. It's just they go back to like their old, habits, because again, you're trying to like eat an elephant versus like little bites. Not eat an elephant. Eat an elephant in one bite.
Either way, not great. Frowned upon, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about, like, you talk a lot about...
Don't eat elephants, by the way.
That's going to be the
Somebody's
title
gonna be like,
of this podcast.
Sonata said, eating elephants will make you grow a big booty.
Exactly. Albanian advice.
Yes.
Okay, so If you had to rank it from worst to best, I want to throw a couple things at you, and you can tell which one you think. So, alcohol, bad sleep, processed food, seed oils, not working out consistently.
Are we rating from?
I don't know, whichever way you feel
From
great
bad to
about it.
good?
Let's rate from bad to good. So like if you had, what's the worst? Is the worst thing you can do bad sleep? Is it alcohol? Is it, processed foods? Is it too much foods?
Oh my gosh, I feel
Or
like
just
these
all
are
of those
all
are bad?
I would say prioritize working out, prioritize sleep, prioritize nutrition, like eating enough protein. What was the other two? Like processed foods, try to eliminate them, try to eliminate. So it's like taking that step by step, get enough sleep, work out hard, dial in your nutrition. And then the other steps of like eliminating processed food and eating as much as you can whole foods. And then sure, like eliminate seed oils, replace olive oil. Now my dad always used to say like olive oil is medicine. I used to be like, haha, like olive oil is medicine. And now, there's so much also out there in the media, including Brian Johnson, like drinking shots of olive oil.
Do we believe that?
I like olive oil. I actually am pretty, I haven't done studies. I don't know. I'm not sure what the studies are out there, but I personally love using a decent amount of olive oil in my diet.
Interesting.
And like my salads are basically, the dressings are pretty simple most of the time, unless I want to get fancy, but most of the time, like 90% of the time is olive oil, lemon, salt. That's it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I like this. I'm basically trying to work my way back into my glass of red wine is not the worst option. So I think we almost got there.
Yes. I mean, and again, like how often with a glass of red wine, like how often are you consuming it?
Crazy.
You know what I mean? So if it's like once in a while, and I like what Dr. Mike said, that if that is the only way that is going to kind of help you unwind, and like the risk benefit, you always talk about the risk benefit in that situation.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What do you think about stress? Like how bad is stress for your body overall? And how much does working out offset stress?
A lot. Like working out is like we were talking about before, like stress goes into like anxiety, goes into depression, like all of those things are mood disorders. It is at the top of the list. Working out is a big release because it uses up that cortisol. Like it is huge at the top of the list, I would say.
Is that how that works? It actually uses up your cortisol on working out, and so it removes it?
It actually helps, yeah. Like and it depending on certain types of workouts can increase the level of cortisol, and there's later on a longer period of time where it can be brought back down, unless you're doing things like maybe meditating and doing those mindfulness practices to lower it back down. But yes, working out is at the top of the list as a stress reliever.
What do you think is the worst exercise advice you've ever heard?
Worst exercise in terms of like don't lift because it'll make you bulky.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's bad. That's one of them up there. And the best was you actually start doing it, lift weights. And for me, like maybe it's a little tangent, is to like stay authentic. It doesn't quite fit into the workout, but like the authenticity part of it, as far as like when it comes to like my presence on social media and my platform and the businesses, it's just to be authentic.
Yeah, well, you come off that way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
totally.
that.
I think it's hard to grow on the internet to the size you are if you're full of it. I mean, well, actually, you live in Hollywood. You probably have been like Codie. I've met plenty of them. Actually, not true. Okay, one other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about in a little bit is like the size of social media that you've grown is really big. As you're building these other businesses and understanding the importance of distribution, how did you think about growing these businesses? Like what does CEO Sonata think about growing an online presence, how to do it, and what did you learn?
There's been definitely growing pains as with every business. And to be honest with you, it's been the focus mostly has been on We Rise versus like Zintoa and the distribution on that has been a lot of logistical, not nightmares, but like with COVID and everything, it did bring upon like nightmares. But when it comes to We Rise, which has been kind of the main focus, we have been lucky to work with a team of people and have brought on good people to kind of manage, to help really, I can almost not involve myself to the detail that I'd like to involve myself with, and allowed them their freedom to operate, because they are and have grown into experts that they are nowadays. But
how long have you worked with these people? How'd you know they were your people? You probably get approached with a lot of stuff, and I don't really see you promote very much at all.
It's been, I would say maybe a year and a half. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Yeah, about a year and a half. And then we finally were like, I'd worked with a different set of people when we first launched Zintoa, and we were working with people in Australia. We had production out of China, and that was a little bit of a nightmare. So then we engaged people that we had known for a long time, and we had gone back and forth and spoken, and then we saw the work that they were doing. Then we involved them into kind of clearing out and settling that process and the production in China, and moving it to Portugal, where Zintoa is now exclusively being produced. And then they proved themselves with their abilities to move product, with their marketing, advertising, with logistics, and everything else that comes with running an apparel company. And then we trusted them with actually working with We Rise as well.
Oh, interesting. So all the same team.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
They're all the same team.
Do you have another CEO that's not you?
We do, yes. Kind of share that role. But then we have hired actual people that are in LA that are part of like the immediate team.
Do you ever ask Kim for business advice while you give her workout advice?
Maybe in passing, like it hasn't been like super direct. I'm like very like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, you're a pro.
Sometimes it's like, and I, she knows this, but she'll try to like tell me something, or like maybe we'll like, she's even put it up on her stories, like watching Love is Blind while working out. I'm like, okay, sure, we'll let that happen today. But she'll like try, and I'm like, I missed that. I'm sorry. I was like focusing on your form, focusing on what you were doing. So yeah, I'm kind of like 100% there. But yeah, in passing, I mean, just she is kind of a living embodiment of like a hard worker. Like she works hard. Not a lot of people see that, but she works hard.
Yeah, you don't get struck by lightning twice. You don't have multiple billion-dollar businesses by accident. Hitting $1 billion once is so damn. I mean, that's 0.0001% of newly created businesses would be anywhere near that. So that's rare. But she does have that Emma lady who seems like a stud that runs a bunch of her businesses too. So maybe you need your Emma.
I know. I mean, we have some Emmas.
You do if they're listening.
Yeah, but I mean, we're building. It's you're always gonna have people that you believe in, that you help them grow, and fortunately, we've had some good people. We've really had some good people.
Yeah, well, like attracts like. Okay, I want to go for a couple just quick questions here. Oh man, no, some of these don't work for you. So if I was going to ask, I was going to build my playlist based off of yours. Your playlist is nothing. Is your Zen brain?
No, I have.
If you had 3 songs, like what are the top? Do you put a song on to like get you amped up?
I don't know. Weird song choices lately.
Yes.
Just because like the combination of like meditation and all of this stuff. But it's Purungi.
Oh, I
Have
like
you heard
that
of
guy.
Purungi?
Yeah, only because I live in Austin. That's like Aubrey Marcus.
There you go.
And
I forgot.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's got a few songs that really like amp me up.
Yeah, those are
you
like
got those like
vibey.
tribal.
Yeah.
You got like that tribal stuff. You know.
Are you dancing around while you're listening to those?
Maybe. Maybe. I'm like, I do need somebody that is capturing some of those moments.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah.
What's happening?
But those, and then, I love Fred Again. I don't know if you listen
don't
to
know
Fred
that
Again.
one.
Again,
Okay.
they've got like
I
a
gotta
few
try
good
it.
songs.
Okay.
I'm not sure like what your vibe is as far as like music
I'm all
goes,
over the place.
but
Are you, any sing-alongs?
sing-alongs?
Yeah, like you singing to anything?
I have to like Fred Again. I like Fred
Oh,
Again.
okay,
They
that's what we're
have
singing
like
to.
good. Yeah, it's like not a lot of syllables, not a lot of like words, but like very impactful words.
Okay, I like this.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer to this, but like, if you could only do 1 or 2 workout moves for the rest of your life, what are you choosing?
Oh man, 1 or 2. I would choose a Bulgarian split squat.
And why?
Because it tackles just like so much of your lower body, like your glutes, your quads, to a lesser level, like your hamstrings. And it's a compound because, depending how you're performing it, and the weights that are utilizing where you're placing them, that would probably be like a good go-to. And if you're gonna do like an upper body one, so if you're gonna make me choose like one-on-one, then pull-ups, because it's working on your grip, it's working on your back. Like it's a almost a total body exercise. Not so much legs, but like I already chose the lower body exercise.
Do you also squeeze your butt
I hate
when you say the
by
word?
the way,
You hate
but-
pull-ups?
man,
But
but
you
that's
do a
what
lot of them.
That's why I do them. Actually, I had somebody in the gym approach today and was like, I saw you last time doing pull-ups. Like, you must love them. I'm like, I actually hate them, but it's because I do. That's why I do them, because I hate them. Sometimes, those are the best things to do, is the things that you don't enjoy doing.
It's so true.
It just builds that resilience, that mental resilience.
Do you also squeeze your butt when you say the word Bulgarian split spots? I feel like every time you're mentioning a movement, it makes me.
Did I? I feel like I don't. Yeah.
I think I do every time. What about if you sort of had to think about building out a home gym, or like the top pieces of equipment? Some of the stuff I love about your workouts is a lot of them you don't need much. Like I can be on the road and I can be like, all right, scroll. There's like 1 or 2 I could do there. What do you think is absolute must have in a gym? If you've got like 3 to 5 things and that's it, what is it?
Dumbbells, like have a few sets of dumbbells, maybe like a few lighter ones, medium and heavy. If you don't have like the option to just get a full stack.
Yep.
If you can, like a cable machine would be great, like a corner cable machine, because there's so much that you can do with that. Yeah, I think those are kind of like the main, like absolutely, like I can get an amazing workout with just having those two things. And then you can add other things as well, like maybe a squat rack or leg extension combined with a leg curl. But those are like if you're wanting to add different pieces of equipment.
Yeah, I love that. You don't use a lot of kettlebells.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. It's a combination. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you
fair.
like them, but you could just as easily do the other stuff.
Yeah. I feel. Are you talking about like if I was to choose between dumbbells and kettlebells? Oh my gosh! Like one group of people is gonna come after me.
Is that true?
I don't know.
This is like a gang. Yeah.
Maybe the kettlebell gang. Will
Yeah, I
come
feel like
after me.
they're not gonna like it.
They're tough. I
tough.
love kettlebells. They're so versatile, and I utilize them both.
Mm-hmm.
But there's unique ways that you can utilize kettlebells that maybe dumbbells you can utilize in a way more. I feel like I know you can utilize dumbbells in a way that you can utilize a kettlebell. I think I might have said that the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing like a kettlebell swing, I utilize a dumbbell, like a heavy dumbbell, to do a dumbbell swing. For people that don't have kettlebells, because a lot more people have dumbbells versus kettlebells.
Yeah.
At their disposal.
And maybe they're not so intimidating. Like my mom wouldn't know what to do with a fucking kettlebell.
Yeah. Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
But dumbbells, she might be able to figure
I
that
think
one
they're
out.
a little bit, just slightly more versatile.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. All right, let's do 2 rapid fires, and I'll let you get out of here and back to the non-gym but meetings you have to go to. Rapid fire: animal protein versus plant protein.
Animal protein.
Do you do any plant protein or no?
I do. I sometimes, will add, but their studies are just out there and are undeniable as to how much more beneficial like animal protein is.
Yep. How about, I already know the answer to this, I think, but lifting heavy 3x a week versus cardio 7x a week.
Oh, lifting heavy 3x a week all day.
It's like, do you follow me? Walking versus running.
Pick your poison. I should say, I keep saying pick your poison. Pick your elixir. Pick your elixir. I mean, it depends. You could do a steep walk, or you could do a run. And again, what is the purpose that you're using it for? Like, again, I always go back to like, what is the purpose that you're wanting to choose between walk and run? Running can be great, can release those endorphins. So can walking to a certain degree. Running can get you into that cardiovascular zone, probably faster, not probably faster than walking can. But again, it's like if you absolutely hate running, like walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, do you have like a book or short story that you go back to again and again where you read and get inspiration from?
Ooh, you may have having me go back and think. There was a time that I was listening to a Buddhist book, to a Buddhist monk's book that had short stories and had very deep meaning.
What do you like about this one? Why read it or go back to it?
Just a lot of short stories that have like a deep meaning for everyday life, for things that most people are struggling with. Like I love a story, and I hope it's from this book. There's 2 by monks that I love, and it's about like this young monk was building a brick wall, and he misplaced a couple of bricks, and he couldn't. It's going back to like the perfectionism, and he could not give up the fact that he had put these 2 bricks that didn't look like the others, that they were imperfect. Instead of looking that he built this amazing big wall, he kept on just thinking about the two bricks that he placed wrong. And that's, for me, that's a big lesson that I still learn every day. It's like, don't look at the 2 bricks that didn't quite fit. Look at the big wall that you just built.
Yeah. True. Yeah. It's probably why you're such a good builder and prolific, because you're always noting the downsides.
True. There is some benefits that come with that, with being a perfectionist, for sure. I think I attribute a lot of my success to being somewhat of a perfectionist. Now there are some other things that you need to work through and be accepting of, that not everything is going to be perfect, that there's going to be a learning curve, that there's going to be, it's like lifting, it's like making progress when you're first working, when you're first starting a workout program. It's like building a business, like you're going to have those setbacks. You're going to work hard and maybe not see results like right away, but keep your head down, put in the work, and the results will come. And don't try to be perfect.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. And then if you had to leave people with like one action to take, one thing that maybe they could do after listening to you today, what would it be?
Lift weights and eat your protein.
Those put that on my mirror.
Yeah. No, the one thing that I always like to say besides that is do everything from a place of love. And I've said this before, but I just always want to keep saying it. Even when you're at the point where you're like, I'm just not happy where I'm at. I'm just not happy with my body or whatever it is. Like, start from a place of loving where you are, because that is the only way to get you where you want to be. Yeah.
Is that what you remind yourself of about you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, it's sometimes hard to love yourself?
Well, yeah. I think I was raised by a perfectionist mom. I think that's where I got, she an A A minus was failing, you know, so you needed to have all A's, and if you weren't first, you were last. So that doesn't develop a whole, and the praise came very rarely, if at all. So yeah, it was definitely, it's been a learning curve as far as like loving yourself. But I think even strength training for me was one of those aspects that did help build that self-confidence, and all of the other aspects, you know, kind of like stepping back from myself and looking at all of the things that I have done, you know, like graduating in 3 years with summa cum laude from, you know, well-known university, and then going to business school while I was working full-time. And, you know, it's like, okay, if I were to like see all of this as like somebody else's resume, not my resume, right? Then I'd be like, wow, that's an accomplished person. That person has done some things.
Yeah. One of my dearest friends, Shayna, that's what she always reminds me. She goes, you know, you're enough, right? Like how you are right now, you're just fine. And I'm always like, shut up. Then I start tearing up, you know, because for perpetual perfectionist drivers, for whatever reason, it's never enough. And it's not like, at least I don't know if it's for you, but for me, it's not that I need more things. It's like I have to be more somehow. Exactly. And it can be a sickness in a different way.
It can. Yeah. You put it so well, you know, like, yeah, there's nothing that I need. I don't necessarily go like, I hate shopping.
Me too.
You know what I mean? So, but it is that almost kind of trying to find that point of being enough, like where that is. And I think it's always a moving point. So realizing that we are already that, and knowing that for whatever this other idea of being enough is you know, we already have that. That is just a moving target of some absurd, whoever created that situation.
Yes. Well, this was so beautiful. I am so honored to hear your story that I didn't even know half of. And I can't wait to watch you and We Rise grow and all the things that you do next. It's so impactful for women everywhere. But I think everybody's listening is going to have to go check out We Rise. They're probably already following you on the internet, so I'm not even going to tell them that. But your biggest platform is Instagram. Sonata Greca.
Sonata.Greca.
Greca. Sonata Greca. And anywhere else you want people to follow you?
I'm on the, you know, main ones, YouTube and TikTok, but Sonata.Greca on Instagram is the biggest one. And then berise.xyz is my little baby.
And she's going to have even more of a glow up in January.
Oh, yeah. As I said, we already have the nutritionist expert, the habits expert, but then we're going to have a bunch of other experts join us in the field of mindset and sleep and hormonal expertise, if you will, career advice. And
you do want to get him pregnant. That's a real bitch for me right now. And I think a lot of women, like getting pregnant. I feel like that advice out there today is damn hard to find.
That
the
is
right
true.
stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know who plays in that game, but the answer can't just be that more of us have to do IVF. Like that's so wild. Sonata, werise.xyz, all the socials. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed chatting with you.